Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel. In this channel, we make videos on learning web development, learning web application development, e-commerce development, digital marketing. If you're new to this channel, please feel free to subscribe. You'll find the subscribe button at the bottom of the video that you're watching right now, that red button over there. Please subscribe so that you will always be informed and you'll get notifications every time we set up a new video in this channel. We have new videos on Wednesdays and on Saturdays. Also, like this video and leave me a comment below, and I will try to get to each and every single comment that is made on this video. Another useful feature that we have on our videos is at the bottom inside the description box. If you expand the description of the video, you will see we've got timestamps to interesting sections in the videos that we're making, because we make a lot of long videos, so you don't have to watch the entire video. You can just read through the timestamp and read about the section that you're interested in, and you can just click on that timestamp and it will take you exactly to that section, and you can just watch that section. And it's also useful in future. If you return, you can just go to the timestamp and click on the section that you want to watch again. And also in the description below, guys, we've got links to our social media channels: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Please follow us there as well. We sometimes output information in there, and let's start learning. Hey guys, welcome back to our lecture series where we are building our own web application from scratch using Python and Django. We are in the process of building our very own careers portal, careers website, where people can come in and search for job applications, apply for job applications, and companies as well can post their job applications so that candidates can search through those applications. Okay, so for the last couple of lectures, I think we're on lecture 8 now, so it's been quite a journey. And for the last couple of lectures, we've been working on our profile registration, user registration process, and it's taking us longer than we thought, but that is a process that's involved when you're building your own authentication system and trying to get your own sort of personalized or specialized for your application login. There's a lot of things that you have to do, and we're going to finish it off in this lecture, hopefully it won't be too long. Okay guys, I know there's two types of people. A lot of people that complain a little bit about the length of the lectures, that they are too long, but they are long so that we can explain each and every single concept in detail. That is why we have timestamps in the description, and you can just skip forward to the section that you want to watch, and you don't have to watch everything if you're familiar with a lot of things. But we are doing these tutorials for beginners, people that are learning how to do web applications. So I do spend time explaining concepts in detail, and our lectures are a little bit long, but that is why we have this channel, Scholar Online, to help you learn these concepts. Okay, so today, we're going to continue where we left off, but before we do that, let me just spend some time telling you what we're going to cover in this lecture. Okay, so I'm back to my presentation template. It's growing and growing every single lecture, and I think at the end I will make it available, perhaps here or perhaps on the Scholar Online website. We'll see. Okay, so today there's 3 main things I want to cover, and if I can do this, I'll be very, very happy, and hopefully I can do this in less than 3 hours. Okay, so the first thing, this won't take long, just a little bit of a retouch, just to make our website look nice. I mean, currently you can see there's all these gray images everywhere, and we won't cover all the images, but at least the image here, and just to make it look a little bit more like a proper website. Okay, so we're gonna start with that, and then after that, this is one of the most important parts of building a user authentication system, and it is the system emails. You see it all the time. You go to Facebook, you log in, you create an account for the first time, you're gonna get an email from Facebook that says to you, can you please verify your email account? You're gonna get an email that says to you, oh, thank you very much, we welcome you for logging in. Every time you change your password, you're gonna get an email, oh, here's your new password. There is these emails that are created by the system that happen every time you go through a certain part of the process. Okay, and we're gonna build in this system emails into our authentication process, so at least when the user logs in for the first time, we're going to send them an email to say, please verify your email address, or whatever the email it is that whatever we want to say to them. Okay, and when they change your profile picture, we're going to send them an email, say, yeah, you've changed your profile picture, whatever we feel like we want to send our users emails about, just to keep our users communicating with the system, and to make sure that the email address as well is working, that have given us, and all of that. So we're going to cover, maybe we'll spend a little bit of time doing this. Okay, but I want to finish off obviously what what we started last week with the model. I decided to take the whole education and experience part of a resume and create separate models for that, so that people can build multiple, replications of an experience. And that was just a personal decision. And I think if you were doing your own Django model, it would be up to you whether you would include the education and experience within the resume model itself, or you would create different models for that so that you can handle the data differently. So that's really up to you. But the way I chose to do it, so we have to finish up the model for education and experience, which we didn't do last week. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover in this lecture. Okay, and if you're new and you're just catching up with this lecture, we're on lecture 8, guys. We've got like multiple lectures already that are on this series, and you can go watch all of them to catch up with where we are. But let's continue. So some images. Okay, so let's think about this. All right, so I want to create an image to cover this background here. All right, and I've in the past I like working with Envato, and I go there all the time. Okay, so that's where I'm gonna go as well, and I'll show you how you can get your own professionally looking images. Okay, so the website that we're building is a we're trying to build a website for a client, and we're gonna give all the professional plugins, not just plugins, but like all the different additional miscellaneous things that go into a website. We want it to be looking nice. And Envato is one of the best places on the internet to get really good images for your website. Okay, and when you get to Envato, I've already got an account, but if you don't have an account, I think it costs something like $15 a month, but that's if you pay for it annually. And if you, I think it comes out to about 3,000 rands for the whole year. And trust me, this is one of the best investments you will make if you're thinking of designing, of having your own sort of web development company, even if you are doing what I'm doing, because I save a lot of money doing things myself, like, graphic design. You can come to Envato Elements and get things like graphic templates, for example, and then you just have to edit here and there, as opposed to paying a graphic designer 1,000 rands to design for you something special. And when you're starting out and clients are being stingy with the money, you can get away with that. But when you become a big company, obviously, then you'll hire your own graphic designers to do everything. But if you're sort of like a jack of all trades, Envato is a really good place to download a lot of sort of professional looking things that you have the time to make yourself from scratch. Okay, so for a background image here, I'm just gonna say something like computer, okay, background image, okay, like that. All right, and you will get like a couple of templates that come through. All right, because I wanna get something like like this, for example, to just cover the background image over there. Okay, and here are the good sort of like what you call it, with the good features of a good background image. Okay, you don't want an image that has sort of too much happening. Okay, so if I click to see more over there, you don't want an image that has a lot of things happening. Something like this makes for a good background image because it doesn't have a lot of, it's not very busy, so you can actually manage to still put stuff on the front without, and still keeping that, niceness of the background image. Okay, something like this doesn't make for a good background image, but something like that makes for a good background image. You know what I'm saying? So something like that makes for a good background image. That may be this even better, and you can put all the things in the middle, and so take the time and figure out what is good for your website, what you like, and go through Envato. If you really want something that's for free, I always recommend Pixabay. All right, I haven't been there in a while because nowadays I pay for Envato. When I started off many moons ago, and I didn't want to pay $14 a month for Envato. Actually, you got sufficient, you can get enough things from Pixabay, for example. But what I don't like about Pixabay is that you're going to find 100 other people using the same image that you're using, because everybody likes free stuff. But honestly, if you really don't want to pay anything, you can come to Pixabay and you can search, and Pixabay has got a large variety of things that you can work with. And something like that, for example, you can download and use as a background image for your website. Okay, so I've already selected the background image that I like, because I wouldn't have been able to do it on camera and do a proper job of thinking through what I really want. Okay, so I've downloaded an image, and if you want to get an idea about the size of image that you want, A lot of these templates, they come with indications like this one will tell you. You can see through there, it's like 2000 pixels times 1333. So this is the size of the image that you want. Okay, 2000 is obviously the width, and if you're not sure, you can check what's longer. 2000 is more than 1.3, so obviously this side is longer than that one. Okay, just common sense. All right, so you want a picture that has 2000 pixels in width and 1300 pixel in height. And by the way, you don't have to be 100% spot on. If you had a picture that was 2000 times 1.5, it would still work. The only problem is if you don't get the dimensions exactly, your browser has to spend more time resizing the images to fit, and that takes more resources and sometimes slows up your website, but sometimes it also takes up resources that you don't need to be spending. Okay, so when it comes to a professional website, you want to be as accurate as possible. So if you can get the image to be exactly this, that is really what you want. Okay, and size each and every single image for the spot that it's going to fit in. Then the browser doesn't have to do extra work to resize images, because when the browser does that, it's taking resources and it's taking time. It's taking your page longer to load because of the resizing and all of that. Okay, so you want your picture to be as close as possible to the actual dimensions that are being displayed over there. Then the second thing obviously is that you want your pictures to be compressed. Okay, so there's two things that I do. Okay, so let's say I got a picture that I liked over there, Pixabay, I download it into my computer. Okay, so you do the same thing, download it into your computer. Okay, and I want the dimensions exactly to be the way that I want it. What I normally do is that I'll use a canvas from my favorite Affinity Designer. Okay, so you can also get Affinity Designer, which I highly recommend that if you're a developer, you think about getting Affinity Designer. Okay, and I'm going to show you where you can get it from. Okay, so Affinity Designer, I think it has options for Mac and for Windows. And the reason why I really like Affinity Designer is that it is there is a once-off fee that you pay for it, unlike some of the other graphic design software where you have to pay for it on an annual basis. Affinity Designer, you pay for it once off, and there is a discount. I paid 1,000 rands for this when I got it. Okay, it was cheaper than 1,000 because I got it a long time ago, but still, it was definitely way more than this 479. Actually, I might use this opportunity to get Affinity Photo. It's on special, guys. I'm gonna link this below because the usual price for this is I think when I paid about 700 rands for it, but it's a long time ago. But it's been going up in prices, and I think it's currently 1,000 rands. And they've got it on special for 500 rand. But the nice thing about Affinity is that I'm gonna get Publisher as well. So actually, I've been wanting to get Affinity Photo for a long time, and I've been using Affinity Designer to do Affinity Photo things, but it's not the same, actually, there's a good time for me to buy this. But what I wanted to mention to you is that the price is a once-off price. And then, you get like the updates all the time. Like I have it in my app store, and every time there's an update, it will just update, and it's a lifetime fee. But nonetheless, I will link this below. I'm not affiliated. I'm not getting paid. I don't have an affiliation link. The link I will give you, you can just go there yourself. It's not an affiliation link. I'm recommending this because it's really a good software and value for money, especially when you're starting out. Okay. So here's my Affinity Designer, right? So what I will do is that I will download a template from Envato, and then I will edit here. Affinity Designer is, you can design stuff on it, but what I really use it for, because I'm not a designer, I use it for like downloading a template and like quick edits, like just move this a little bit over there, ungroup that, and then move that there, edit it a little bit and move that there and change this color to red or whatever if my theme was red. Those kind of things are easy to do even if you're not a designer, right? You can do that very, very easily on something like Affinity, and then it will save you a lot of money than having to hire an actual graphic designer. Okay, so if you got an image like let's say you downloaded this image over here, all right, and you wanted it specifically to fit these dimensions of where are my dimensions? 2000 times 133. What I normally do with my Affinity Designer is I will come here and I will create a new document, and then I'll choose the dimensions. It'll be like 2123 times 1300. Okay, 1333, and then the DPI is obviously like how sort of dense you want it to be. The better, the higher, the better. But obviously, the higher, the more space it's gonna take. Okay, so maybe something in the middle, just decent enough, like 200 or whatever, and then you create. Okay, then it's going to create for you the document of exactly those dimensions, and then you could then bring in this image over there. So if you had downloaded the image, and then you would bring it in from wherever you downloads. Let's say I downloaded the image. Let me pick one image. It's not exactly this one, but I'm going to just pick an image that I downloaded for something else, right? Then you would then fit it into the canvas, right? And whichever way, let's say you would, obviously you would cut off some edges, but what I like is that then you would fit it into the space that you have available of 2000 times 1.3, okay? And then you can export it, all right? And this exports different versions, all right? And when you export it as a PNG, you can see how big it is. You can export it as a JPEG, and you can see it's smaller as a JPEG. You can export it as a okay, GIF doesn't make sense, but like, let's see if you try to export it as an SVG, it takes even less space, all right? But my favorite is between the JPEG, I think PNG, it takes up more space, 3 megabytes, and this is 628 kilobytes, okay? So I'll export it as something like a JPEG, okay? And then let's just export it, and you saw the size of this, about 300 or whatever, all right? So let me just put this here, like testing image, all right, so that I know what it's called, right? So then the dimensions are going to be exactly the way that I want it to fit the space that I need to put the image in, okay? Once I've done that, okay, there's an additional software that I use to compress the images, because when you do anything for web, you have to compress images. This is something that beginners always never do because they don't know this, all right? But when you serve a web application, right, your browser, it goes and it gets the images from wherever your static folder you are, you've got the images saved. And if you've got a 2 megabyte or a 2 gig size image, the browser has to go and upload that whole 2 gigs of an image, all right? And that means that your users are going to be spending more data to get that whole 2 gig of whatever. So and then it's going to take it longer because of the transfer time and your bandwidth and everything between, your web hosting service and the browser or wherever the client is trying to access that file from. So it takes longer, first of all. The second thing is that it costs the client more data costs. Okay, so your website ends up chowing more data, and clients will be like, why every time I'm on Bertha's website my data gets finished quickly? Maybe they don't notice, but the point is that happens, and then clients will avoid your website because they don't want to waste too much data on your and then they don't want to wait too long, right? So those are the two main problems with serving large images. And then when the image gets to the browser, because the size is only 2000 times 133, then the browser has to spend more time resizing the image again. So it spends more time picking up going to fetch a large image, all right? It spends more bandwidth and more data to get that large image. And once it gets that large image, it realizes, oh gosh, this image is too large. And then it has to spend more time resizing the image to fit the browser. You understand? You are giving the browser too much work. You might not notice that's happening in the 3 seconds that it takes your whole, maybe 5 seconds it takes your whole web page to load, but Google notices and your clients, they notice, okay? So good practice for designing websites is, number one, size the images to the right dimensions. Number two, compress them so that they take less data, okay? And so for compressing, I recommend always using this application. It's called Image Optim. All right, I use this all the time. I found it like a long time ago, and I use it everywhere I go, okay? So Image Optim, I think it's got a, you can download the actual app, but there's also an API for it as well, which is good for, you can actually design this into your application if you have the time. But now actually, especially the images that are within the HTTP or the static folder, I'll just, download the application. Okay, so you can get the app or the whatever. There's also a web service where they do it for you, but I have it on my app downloaded. All right, so you can just go there and you can download it for free. So once you've downloaded it, this is what the application looks like. Okay, Image Optim. There it is. Okay. It's just a very simple application. So I'm going to put it there like that, and make sure that you have lossy minification enabled, okay? And it can compress up to 80% if you have that enabled, okay? So that's the first thing. Make sure that's enabled. And I'm going to open this image for you over there, all right? And look at how big that image is, all right? But it's actually the right dimensions for my website, right? But I could go to the, let me see here. I could go to the desktop, right? And I just want to double check the size of the image, testing image. Where is it? It's 643 kilobytes. All right. So this is the current size of this image. What you want for websites is images that are about 100 kilobytes or less. if you can, you must try and get your image to 100 kilobytes or less. What you can even do is to make this even smaller. So it's this, you can actually go to to tools, and you can like adjust the size, and you can cut it again. It's 24, and maybe you can make it like 15. All right, it will reduce the size, but it will reduce it according to the right aspect ratio. So because it's smaller than what it was supposed to be in pixels, what the browser will do is that it will try to blow it up, and that's when you get like sort of a little bit of a lower quality. But it's fine as long as the quality is not too bad, especially since this is a background image. You don't need the crisp edges, you don't need it to be very well defined. You're not showing anything like really over high, and clients don't even notice that. So you can get away with actually getting the image smaller than it should be and having the browser blow it up than having it bigger and having the browser cut it down. Okay, so this, I'm making it a bit smaller than it needs to be. Okay, so the browser will have to blow it up, but then they will lose the quality, but not too much. Okay, so when you do that, don't overdo it. Okay, so the size is reduced a little bit, and then I'm gonna go and have a look again at the. I'm gonna go to where am I? Let me close that. Okay, I'm gonna go again and have a look at the desktop again, and I want to see the size again. And now you'll see it was 600, it's now 300. I've cut it down by half. Okay, but I want to show you what Image Optim will do. Okay, it's now about 320 kilobytes. You just sort of take the image and drag it into Image Optim like that, and it's going to reduce it by 40% in this case because it was already pretty small. All right, so it has taken it from about 300 kilobytes to 185. Okay, so as a web designer, you want to get this number as low as possible. For a background image, maybe 120, 100 kilobytes, but most images definitely lower than 100 kilobytes. And if it's the image type, because it has too many things happening, that's why maybe it can't get low enough. So you might want to find a different image type that, if I go back to Envato, so this is why the type of image you select is very important. So if you select an image type like this, for example, you'll see it doesn't have too much colors and too many things happening, jumping up and down. An image like this and an image like that, for the same exact dimensions, this will take more space than that because this has got more definitions, more things to define than that. Okay, so sometimes even just the image type itself will, you get an image that's mostly white and not too many things happening, then it will take up less space. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about images and how to make your website look nice. This is basic web design knowledge stuff, but I thought I would squeeze it in here, for your information when you work with images on your website, because I'm giving you a full course on web app development. And fortunately, whether you're a Python designer or not, you still have to understand front-end elements of browsers and how images work and all sorts of things. Okay, so all of that is done. Okay, in my case, I've already gotten my image downloaded. I'm going to come back to this later, not today, off camera. So I already got my image downloaded, and so there's two things. Now, when you want to get the image in here, we have to go to the index file for this. All right, so I think that's this one, index.html. And then you sort of just like figure out from the HTML where is the image located, right? And this looks like a background image. And if you go to our index, I think that's the section starts there. And the background is that over there. This is the URL for the background. Okay, so what you will do here is that you need to get your image in there, over there, right? And if you have saved your image in the static folder, okay, all you'll do is you'll say URL. It escaped me for a bit how to do this, but similar to what we did with the src for the images, we need to refer to our static folder. And obviously at the top, we need to make sure that we are loading static, which we've already done for this template. As you can see, we're already loading our CSS and a lot of all of this from the static folder. Okay, so the background image that we're going to be using, we need to make sure that it is saved inside of our static folder. Okay, so let me just go to, where was I? Okay, so we need to make sure that it's saved within our static folder. So I'm going to just show you where our static folder is again. Okay, so if you go to cd static, and you see the app, and you see the images, all right, if you list everything that's in here, you will see the image that you want to use. I've already moved it. It takes a while, but I've already moved it from my personal computer to my virtual server. And it's this image over here. It's called careers portal bg .jpg. So this is the image that you want to use. So the path for this image is from the static folder. If you could load the static folder, is inside the app and the images, and then it's called careers portal bg.jpg. So this is how you're going to refer it, the same way we referred to the other images that we got there. So I'm going to just paste in here what you need to say, but basically is within the static folder. Within the static folder over there, we need to refer to the app images. So that is the app images, and then it's this image inside of the app and images, okay? And then obviously it's inside the curly braces and the percent signs. All right, because this is typically a Python function, and then we should be able to get it. All right, so I'm going to cd out of here. All right, and then I'm going to run my app again. Okay, so it's off for now, so let's just run it again. I've crammed how to type this manage.py, and you need to say run server, and I always like to sort of indicate the port that I'm going to be running this from, just to make sure that everything goes well. Okay, so I need to get out of the static folder. I need to make sure I'm in the same directory where manage.py is. Let's clear this. Let's run it again. All right, so that should go well, and then let's just go back in here and let's restart our app, and then again you will see now the background image has changed, and it makes quite a huge difference. Okay, now the website looks completely new, and I managed to get an image that sort of matches my logo a little bit over there, you see there. So I mean, think about the kind of image that you want, and it adds a whole of life into your website, and suddenly we're looking like this is coming to life, right? And I want to also do the same. I actually want to use the exact same image for my profile page. So if you look at the profile page over here, is also sort of the same size image, and I'm going to use the exact image. So if you go to our profile HTML, I think it's this one here. Is it this one? Oh, it's similar to this one. I think it's definitely using the same layout too. All right. So I've already like highlighted so there's two ways of representing a background image. Okay, in this index file, you'll see that the background image is shown explicitly in the HTML. Okay, so this is inline CSS, where you see the styling, and it's explicitly in the HTML file, and you can then just include the link to it. But in some cases, and depending on the template that you're using, you might find something similar to this, where you don't see the background image explicitly in the HTML, but you'll see the class that it's referring to. And if you go to the CSS, then you'll find the background image inside the CSS. Okay, so I wanted to show you both methods, because depending on the template that you're using, you might find this sort of arrangement or that sort of arrangement. Okay, so this arrangement is easy to just put in the static like that. But if you find yourself with a template that has got an arrangement like this, for example, where you don't see the actual image itself inside of the HTML, you have to go into the CSS file, all right? And the way to find it is to check the class, all right? And it could be this class, it could be that class, you never know. So you sort of try them all out, okay? I know I've already tried the classes, and I know it's this BG half, okay? So I'm going to just like Command F inside of my Atom, so that I can open my style CSS, which is going to be inside of your CSS folder, and you go to the style.css like that, and I've already opened it in here, and then I'm going to search again for it, and you'll see this is the style.css. Okay, so the original background image was just the placeholder, which was showing that 200 times 1100 image, all right? And what I want in there is the same image, careers portal BG, all right? Now if it's inside of your CSS, you're not going to be able to, well, you don't really want to use that whole static, because it's not talking to Python directly, it's not talking to Django, it's the CSS file. Okay, so it's being handled slightly differently from the way you would handle your HTML inside of your template, right? In here, you actually want to use the exact same arrangement that you would use in a typical CSS, so you have to do relative referral, okay? So relative to where the CSS file, where is that image, okay? So you're going to move up 2 folders. So if you look at the CSS file, you're going to move completely out of the CSS file, and then you're going to go find the images file, and inside of the images file, it's that image called career port, okay? So that's basically how it works. So this would work typically to how a normal, CSS referral image would work. I mean, the way you would refer inside of a typical CSS file, it works the same way even if you're working with Django. So this also will work. So I'm going to use the same image, and that's what I'm going to put in there. And I've just highlighted this out. Okay, so you can either highlight it out or remove it completely. It's up to you. Maybe remove it completely to be on the safe side. Right, so the CSS file is completely changed. And you could either go in here and try and find that line inside of the CSS file in your folder. Inside your VPS, because now we're operating off of the VPS, all right? Or what I like to do, even if I've changed just one line, I know, provided you haven't messed up the rest of the file, I actually like to copy and paste the entire file, because it's going to be a mission to try and find that line inside of the CSS folder on a Ubuntu machine, because Ubuntu is just a different type of an animal, all right? So I'm going to copy the whole file, all right, and command copy, and then I'm going to go back to my static folder, all right. So I'm going to see the static app CSS, all right. And in here, I'll find my style.css. There it is. I'm just going to remove the current one, okay? So I'm going to remove style.css like that, and then I can nano style.css again. Before you do this, make sure you have the file and that you can paste it, okay? Don't remove it and you don't have it and then you don't know where to find it again. So I'm going to nano it, and then I'm going to paste what I've copied in here. Then I don't have to worry about finding the specific line where I made a change or an update. Once that's pasted properly, just Control X to close this file, save everything in here. Wait, CSS, yeah, that's the one. And then I'm going to CD completely out of here. All right, and then I'm going to run this again. So I could try and retype this or paste it. So I'll just retype it, Python manage.py, run server. Right, and then we're going to just restart this. Okay, now what I wanted to mention, and you probably will notice this when you if you edit your CSS file and you rerun your Python program, the CSS doesn't update, because it's actually sort of like the way the browser works. It's sort of like it saves a file, it saves it in the browser itself, and it doesn't always call the CSS unless if you force it to. So it's sort of like, what do you call it? I don't know whether it's the cookies or it's the, I think it's like it saves a copy of the, what do you call it? There's a name for it, right? So it doesn't always call the CSS file unless if you force it to do that, right? And the way to force it to do that is to clear the browser cookies and the browser history, because otherwise it will it's not going to actually show the changes you've made to the CSS file. And that's one of the ways the browser saves energy and saves, sort of like space and bandwidth and all of that. It doesn't call the CSS file each and every single time you load the page. So what you need to do is actually go to Chrome at the top there and clear browsing data, and you can just clear for like an hour. Last hour actually the shortest clearing you can do, so you don't mess up a lot of your cookies and your browsing history and your cache. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Okay, so the browser caches a lot of these files in itself, so it saves a copy of it the first time you load it. Okay, and then every time you recall that page, it doesn't actually recall the CSS as well. Okay, it will recall the HTML, but it assumes that, okay, you're not going to be changing the CSS file every 2 seconds. Okay, so it's one of those files that it will just save it off the cache that it has saved under its history. So what you need to do is actually to clear it, okay, so that you can see the changes. And every time you make changes to your CSS files, even in the development mode of your Django application, this is the same with a lot of the Python web frameworks. Flask works the same. You'd also have to clear the browser history, and then you can restart it. And this time you should be able to see the image, because now it's actually going to properly recall the CSS file again. It's going to take longer to load. Okay, so if your browser had to basically, okay, it's not gonna, let me see, am I running this? Okay, it is running. So if your browser had to like recall the CSS files, the images each and every single time. It will take so long to load a page each and every single time. You understand? So that's why it does this, okay? But you can see now, once you've cleared that, the image is loaded, all right? And this looks much better. I mean, this looks better than it had before. So that's what I wanted to start with, just sort of making the application look a little bit better. And if you go into the view the resume page, all right, you'll see the image is much clearer here. You can see your profile picture. This time I have uploaded a profile without actually adding a picture, and this is one of those default images that I had, and it randomly chose this. And you can try this for yourself and create like 3 different profiles, and you will see that every time it will pick a different one because it's randomly picking one. And this is a good way of having random profile images inside of your application. And I also did some changes inside of this profile page. All right, I think if you remember last week we had a bit of a funny looking display over here, and I didn't change much, and this is easy to do, okay? I just sort of replaced that that sort of a widget that was over here with a table, okay? So I'll take you through the CSS very, very quickly. So underneath the candidate's profile, all right, you'll see that we had a row, all right? So this is that row over there, and then there was two columns, all right? So the first column is this column LG6 MD6, it's this column over here. So column LG6 just takes up half of the space of the whole HTML, okay? So that's what this is doing. And then inside of that you had so what I did is that I replaced that whole widget that was over there with this widget, with this div of a component wrap around a shadow. And where did I find this from? The components. Okay, so this template, it comes with this file that's called components. All right, if you open the components HTML, it's this one over there. And a lot of HTML templates come with a page like this, which shows you all the raw components that are in the template and how you can call them, right? So if you find a components page like this, you can sort of like search through it. Like, this is the buttons, this is the typography, and you can sort of figure out all the different buttons. If you wanted to change and you didn't like this button, maybe you wanted a green one, it will show you how to get those type of buttons. Now, what I did is that I just sort of used this to sort of call this, I wanted to call this sort of card. It looks like a card of sorts, okay? So I went to this component.html file, which is this one over there. Components.html is the same one over there. All right, and I just looked for the that card, and that's the card over there, okay? It's a component wrapper around it, okay? And then there's one with a shadow, and then there's one without the shadow. So let me see the one with the shadow. It's the one which has the texts over there. So it has a little bit of a shadow there, but it doesn't really matter. All right, so what I did is that back to my candidate's profile, that's the one. Okay, it does have a bit of a shadow as well. So I copied that from there, right? So this is the card, the outside card, and then you'll see this is the top part where you have the, the title, personal information. All right, so this is the top part where you have the title, personal information. You'll see it has a BG light, that's the grayish background, okay? If you change this BG to like BG success or whatever, the color will change as well, and I think light is all right, so I'll keep that. And then underneath there you have a div, and inside the div is where you have your content. So this is that div over there, and inside that div is where I added my table. All right, so table, to figure out how that table HTML works, I actually googled, because there was no table inside of this this template that I'm working with. I couldn't find it, but this template is based off of Bootstrap if you paid close attention. And you'll see the buttons are like Bootstrap buttons, and the classes and everything, button, primary button, and everything, the pills, the displays, the badges, you can see this is based off of Bootstrap HTML, sort of library and CSS library, sorry. So I just went and I Googled tables in Bootstrap and found the sort of the tables, the CSS, coding for a table. And the table that I wanted was this one over here that has stripes. I think if you go down a little bit, you'll see it. Where is it? Where is the table that I think it's this one over here, okay? All right, let me go down. Yeah, this one, table stripped, okay? So table stripped, you'll see at the bottom here, you need to call class table stripped, okay? That's exactly what I did over there. I just called table class table stripped, okay? And you'll see that table strip has got a table head, and the table head starts there and it ends over there, all right? And then after that you get the table body. All right, so I didn't want a head. Okay, I don't want a if you look at my website, I don't want to label these things. I actually just wanted like a column and a column. Okay, so I got rid of the table head. You'll see I don't have a table head, I just have a table body, and within the table body you have the rows. So these TRs are the table rows, and inside the table rows these are all the different columns. Okay, so if you figure out how the Bootstrap tables works, I actually just wanted like one, two, couple of rows. All right, and that's what you see over here. I have a table row, and within every row I actually just have like two columns. Okay, so that's the column there where all the headings are. All right, and then that's the second column within the different rows. All right, and then inside of there I added a strong just to make it bold a little bit, and then that's what you see over here. Okay, so that's the bold, and that's the sort of the rows, and then these are the two columns, and that's basically all I did. So I just rearranged the CSS to look a little bit better. I added the tables, and I did the exact same thing here. So this is column 6, I just basically the next column 6, which is this one over there, I did the exact same thing with the data there. Okay, and then last week we had a bit of an issue with downloading of the files. All right, so we're going to do that later on today, but I just wanted to start with just cleaning up my CSS and my HTML. And in a proper professional website, that's pretty much what you're going to want to do as well. Okay, and we're going to clean up the buttons at the top there once I figure out how I want to do that as well. All right, so today we're going to focus on getting this education and experience. Perhaps we'll add a button over there, and then you go to click it, and then maybe it'll show you a form or take you to a form page, and then you can enter that information, and then it will show all the different education and experiences. But we'll get to that later. Before that, I think I wanted to spend time cleaning up my registration process. All right, and working with the system emails. System emails are a very important part of getting your Django application up and running. Okay, and that's what we're going to start with now. All right, so let's stop this. All right, and let's clear, and then we're going to start with our system emails. And for that, I'm going to link in the description below. I think I've got a Django. I think I've closed it. I closed the page. All right, I think I did close the page, but that's not a problem because I can actually just open a new one. So just go and just search Django, sort of like email, Django emails, all right, something like that, and see what comes up. I know I'm sending email from Django. Okay, there it is, and make sure it's the Django documentation, and I'll take you quickly through it. Okay, so it's very, very easy. It's even simpler than it is in Flask to send an email through Django. Okay, so you basically have to import everything from Django core mail, and then the easiest way is just to use this what they call send mail. Okay, and send mail is just a function that takes the subject, the message from to, and then it will just send the mail. Okay, you can even do this without having a mail client, but we are doing this from a professional email account, and a lot of the times if you do this without a proper email account and proper HTML email, the servers on the other side tend to reject it as spam. Okay, and you don't want that because you don't want all your images ending up in the trash folder of people. Okay, so I'm going to show you the proper way of doing this, especially if you're doing a proper web application and you don't want your emails to always end up in the junk folder. You want to create a proper SMTP server, and and then do this. So the first time I think it's lecture 2 or lecture 3, I can't remember exactly which lecture it was, we went and we got a hosting account. Okay, so we went to domains. All right, I'll go there now quickly. All right, we went to domains.co.za, and I will link this maybe perhaps in the description below again if you've missed it the last time, because this is really, really easy. This is how we decided that we were going to call our website careersportal.co.za. Okay, we went and we did the keyword planning for it. We figured out the sort of the clicks we're going to be getting, or we think we could be getting for this if we managed to sort of rank properly for this website. And we went to domains.co.za and we made sure that careersportal.co.za was available. Okay, and we immediately reserved that domain name. So we actually already own this domain, careersportal.co.za. We are going to launch our website there. Okay, so we bought a hosting package from domains.co.za. Okay, and it's this one over here. So if you go to web hosting, we got this package over here for 89 Rand. I don't know if it's 89 rands. Oh, no, I think I just added it to my existing package because I already have a package with domains.co.za. But you could get a package for 89 rands and it's sufficient to host. No, actually, we didn't do this. We didn't do this. We didn't get a package for 89 rands. We're hosting our website off a VPS that's of DigitalOcean, but we got our domain from domain.co.za and then we just added it to an existing hosting package. Sorry for that confusion. But either way, you could if you paid this 89 rands a month, you could get a domain and a hosting package, and then the domain would be free. Otherwise, you have to pay for the domain separately, and I think that's what we did. Okay, so we paid for the domain, but the point I'm trying to make is that we now own this domain, and we can actually create email accounts because we can now get email hosting on the same package that we got. Okay, so this, for example, comes with 25 email accounts already if you get the 89 rand package, okay? And when you get the hosting package, they'll give you a cPanel account and you can do everything off of cPanel, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So we already have our hosting package. And we're going to go to our cPanel, all right? And this is our cPanel. And if you start on cPanel over there, this is where the default cPanel will take you, all right? And if you're on this default cPanel, you just need to go into email accounts like that, all right? So under email accounts, I created a new email that is called support@careersportal.co.za. You can call it anything you want. I mean, I've got like 500 email accounts available, all right? It's so cheap to do this, but obviously there is a restriction on space. You probably never use the whole 500 email accounts anyway. The point is, you can come here, you can create a new account like that. Just click create, and provided you added your hosting package over here like I did, this careersportal.co.za, then you can just pick your username. Let's say it is my username. I want to create a new account. I want to call it admin, and then you can set the password, and then you can decide the storage space, whatever, and then you create. Okay, I won't create another one because I've just created one for support.co.za. Okay, so that's what you need to do. All right, and once you've done that, then we're going to go back to our VPS machine, and then I'm going to show you how to get in all the the email settings from domains.co.za into your VPS so that you can get your email account running, because the emails that we're going to be sending from our VPS are going to be coming from a proper email account that is authenticated. That's one of the best ways to prevent your emails being considered as spam in other people's folders, because the other receiving server will know that, okay, this is coming from a proper email address, it's authenticated, this is not a bulk email, this is not one of those programmed emails, so it won't be sort of like we picked up as spam. You don't want that. Okay, so when you get here, you need to go into your settings.py file. Okay, so inside our settings.py file, all right, what you need to do is you need to go to the bottom of the file. That's the first step that you need to do. And then you need to set up your email settings for your server, for your for your email server that you're going to be using. Okay, so the first thing you need to specify is this, what they call the email backend. Okay, and this one you must just specify it as django.co.mail.backend SMTP email backend. All right, so you're just sort of giving it an email backend and it's going to be using SMTP. Right. After that, this is going to be unique to the email server that you're using. Okay, so you could be using Gmail, for example. You can actually use your Gmail account to do this. And if you're using Gmail, you would use the sort of the email, the Gmail whatever mail server. I think it's mail.gmail.com. I'm not sure what it is. I hardly ever use Gmail for a professional web application, because the last thing you want is to create a web application and be sending people emails from a Gmail. So this costs you 89 rands a month. You could pay 89 rands and just test it out for 1 month and then cancel it out if you don't like it. You can even get free email servers on the internet, on places like Namecheap, where you can test it out for 2 months without paying for it. Okay, so there's actually really no excuse not to do this properly, because it gives an impression to your client when they get an email that is professional from a proper email account, and it works well. Okay. So for domains, you need to use CP50. It depends on your domain server, right? So in my case, my domain server is CP51, or else you can also just say mail.careersportal.co.za. But I think it works faster if you use the CP of your cPanel. So depending on how you log into your cPanel. So if you look at me, for example, when I log into my cPanel, I will do CP51 dot whatever, right? This is my cPanel login. That's why I use CP51. So you need to check what CP your cPanel is on, or you can just use mail dot your domain. All right, and that will also work provided your DNS settings are set correctly. Then you can just use mail.yourdomain.co.za. All right. Either way, CP51 works for me. And then I always recommend to use TLS for security, and then use port 587. That is going to be an SSL port. And then finally, what you need to specify these two things: email host user. This is going to be your username that you selected. When you created your account on cPanel, you used support at careersportal.co.za. Depending on what email account you created, you're going to use that user over there, and then you need to specify your password. Okay, so once you've done this is all the settings you need to do inside of your settings.py file, and then we're going to just control X like that, and then it's going to ask me if I want to save, and then you're going to close the file like that. Okay, so your settings.py file is done. We're going to go back to our Django documentation. All right, so we're not going to do this. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to be using an HTML email. All right, because an HTML email looks more professional, and I'm going to show you how to do this. This is not easy, okay, and it took me a while to get it done, but because the way email works is slightly different from a website. Okay, on a website I can host the CSS files somewhere else within the same web application framework, and then the way the framework works, it can find the CSS, it can find the HTML, and everything works well. But if you're going to send an email and you want to send an HTML email, you have to send the styling inside of the email. Okay, so you have to do it's sort of what they call inline styling. You have to build an email template with the CSS inside of the email template. It is not as easy as it sounds, but there is a lot of email templates you can buy out there that already got the CSS styling into them, but it takes a lot of time to find the one that works well with you. Okay, so I found one and I'll share it with you here. All right, so the email template that I use is this one over here. It's called email template. Okay, it's basically a long document because I had to build in the CSS. Well, I didn't have to build in. Wherever I got the template from, they built the CSS inside of the HTML. So it's what they call inline CSS. All right, because all of this whole file must go with the email so that the CSS can be there on the mail side. So this works slightly different to a typical HTML page where you could put the CSS file somewhere else and just refer to it like in your static folder, right? This doesn't work like that when you're doing emails, right? And a lot of email servers, even Gmail especially, it will not download the CSS file. So if you try to just put a link at the top the way you do the normal HTML and try to say, the CSS file is somewhere else, and link it to it, a lot of mail servers do not download it because they don't want to, download viruses and all sorts of other things. So the best way to do CSS, honestly, in an email template is to have it inline. All right. So within this template, it's basically the same. It looks just like a normal. There's a lot of commenting on it so that you can understand what we're doing, but it works just like a typical HTML template. You've got the head, you've got the body, you've got the tags and everything. All right. So I'm not going to spend time going through the CSS. The CSS is just what makes it look nice. All right. But once you've gone through all of that, right, inside of the mail template itself, this is where the mail is going to sit, okay? I've got a heading, all right? And in the heading, you can also use like your Ginger, sort of like double curly braces, because you can also sort of send forth a variable into the context of the HTML, the same way we do when we do templating on the Django side, okay? We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to build a template because we don't know what the email is going to be about, what the body, the title of the email is going to be. We're going to sort of send the variables through to the template the way we do any other template that takes in variables, through the curly braces. All right. So I'm going to have a variable called email. So this email you could assume is similar to like an object. All right. So it's email.title.subtitle.message, whatever it is that I'm going to be requiring in here. And I've styled them the way that I want to style it. And I'll make this template available for you to use if you want. You write me an email, and then at the bottom over there, I've got like a nice footer with all rights reserved, and you'll see what the template looks like once the email is saved. Okay, so this is how many lines? 500 lines of HTML just to write a simple email that we're going to be welcoming people when they create an account on our careers portal. Okay, so once you've done that and you've created your HTML template, all right, there are variables. The variables the template is going to take is the title, a description, a subtitle, and a message. All right, I'm going to have to define all of this before I can the email would be able to work. All right. Once we've done that, I'm going to take you through the coding for the email. All right. I've written like a, sort of like a function over here. Where is it? There it is. All right. So I've written a function over here called a test email. All right. So this function called test email, I'm just going to call it to write a test email so that we can just test that the email functionality works inside of our system. All right. And then within this test function email, it's going to be inside of a views file. All right. So inside of a views file where we have all our other views, where we have our register view and where we have our profile view, our create resume view, and our detailed resume view. Underneath all of that, I'm going to create a new view and I'm going to call it a test email view. All right. And inside that test email, I'm going to create the email object. Okay, so this email object is the same email object that I'm going to be passing into the context of the email template. All right, so if you look at our email template, let me find it. Where is it? If we look at our email template, oh, there it is. All right, it's at the end there. You'll see that there is this email object that has all the data. The title is the email.title or whatever. So that's the same email object that I'm talking about over here. So I'm going to specify the title of the email. I'm going to specify the description, the short description, the subtitle, and the message. These are the 4 variables that I need inside of our template. Okay, so the title goes over here. There's going to be a subtitle of an H2 tag. There's going to be a message. And where is my short description? Let me just search for short description. There it is. Okay, so it's at the top there somewhere. All right, and there's only one of it. Doesn't matter. There must be a reason to why I chose to do it that way. Nonetheless, these are all the variables that are going into the email. Okay, so the title, I'm just going to say this is a test email. All right, short description, this is a test email from Careers Portal, testing 1, 2, 3, and this is a message. We are sending this email from Python Django Web Framework. We want to know if all works well. Please check and let us know. All right, so this is the email object that's going to go into the HTML template. All right. Then after that, I want to show you at the top here what I'm using. Okay, email multi alternatives. Okay, so I'm gonna just copy that, and then I'm gonna go back to our Django documentation, and I want to show you where the email multi alternatives is. Okay, so instead of the typical send mail, which is the one at the top, which is the easiest one to use, I'm not going to use send mail because send mail doesn't allow me to enter HTML. I think it does now, but on the documentation page, it doesn't, right? So over here, this is the one that I want because it allows me to attach HTML content, okay? So the way email multi-alternatives work is you have to specify a subject, from, and to. Okay, the subject, where does the email come from? Where is the email going to? The text content, you need to provide it the content of your email in text format, all right? But you can also then add the content of the email in HTML format, so you have 2 types of formats, and then you get those email servers that do not accept HTML, then they will settle for the text format, but every other email server that accepts HTML will then take the HTML format. So you're actually serving 2 different types of emails, all right? two different types of contents at the same time, and then the server will choose which one they display to the user. But most of them actually will display the HTML nowadays, all right? So it has multi alternatives. That's why they call it email multi alternatives. We have two alternatives types of emails that you can send through, all right? So you'll have the text content. This is an important message, and you can send the same message in HTML format, all right? And then after that, you then create a message object, MSG object, where you use the class email multi alternatives and you enter all the different variables that it takes, and then you attach the one alternative, which is the HTML content, and then after that you send it. Okay, so this is all the lines of coding that you need to send an email. That's it. All right, so the only trick for us is how to figure out how to send our HTML content in and attach it over there, because currently it's sitting in an HTML file. It's not just HTML typed into a page. Okay, so that's really the only tricky thing that we have to do on our side. All right, so for that we're gonna download a loader called get template to load our HTML template. We actually don't need this context anymore. I must just delete that. All right, so we're going to use get template to load our HTML template so that we can then attach it to the email. All right, and this is how the code must look like. You're going to have the subject. All right, I like to always have everything inside these square brackets, to sort of, especially the website name, so that I know what, people nowadays associate, the website name at the beginning with, okay, that's what this email is all about. All right, and then from email, remember we specified in our settings the from, when we specified our our username, we use this variable called email host user. Right, so you can import the settings into this file and then call that email host user, so that you don't have to type it in every time. You only want to type it in once inside of your settings file. The reason why this is very, very useful is that you could be doing this for testing purposes, and I've done a lot of web apps, and I know this is usually the case, and you do this inside of your testing, and then later on perhaps you show this to the client and they say, no, we don't want to use that email address. We want to use no reply dot whatever .co.za, and then you have to go into your coding and find everywhere you are using the email address and try and change it, and that's usually a mission. You're gonna miss one or two. So when you specify it once inside of your settings, and you can import the settings at the top over there from Django config, you import settings. All right, then you can just call it like that, and you only have to change it once inside of your settings file, and you won't have to change it every single time. All right, and then after that you're going to say to email. All right, so I'm going to actually send this to myself. Let me just have a look at my email address here. What is this email address? scholaronline@gmail.com. All right, so I'm going to copy this. Copy that, scholaronline@gmail.com, and I'm going to paste it in there. Okay, scholaronline@gmail.com. And then after that, the text content. Okay, I'm using the triple quotation so that I can type it in properly. Okay, and I want it to look as close as possible to my HTML file. And if you remember my HTML file, it has the let me go to my HTML file. It sort of has the title, then the subtitle, then a break, and the message. Okay, so I'm trying to do something similar: the title, the subtitle, and then the message, and then I've got some spaces in between, and I'm writing this in Python 2 format. It's sort of like formatted strings. It's just a habit. I do it like this all the time. And then so you format, and then you enter the different variables that are going to be slotted in there. So the first variable that will be slotted in there will be the description. Okay, that will come at the top. Okay, and then the subtitle over there will go in there, and then the message, the email message, will go in there. All right, then once you've done that, then you're gonna use that get template, which is what we upload, we imported at the top over there. All right, we're gonna use that get template, and we're gonna call our HTML template, which we're gonna call basic email.html. Okay, and this is going to be saved directly in the root of the templates folder, so we can just call it as it is. All right, Django will find it, provided you have saved it in the correct templates folder, which is referred to in your settings.py file. Remember, in the settings.py file, we had to specify our template folder where all our templates are going to sit. So you're going to have to save this basic email template in the same folder as you have saved all your other templates. And provided you call it the same name and you save it in the right location, Django will find it, okay? Then once you've done that, then you enter the context, okay? And the way you enter the context is the same way we enter our context in Django. We need to enter it as an object, and then we need to give it the same name that we're going to be using in there. So the name that we're using in there is email, and hence when we enter it into the into the object, we're going to use email, and then that email is equals to this email, which is that email object at the top over there. And then after that, we just say HTMLC, which is this function, which is this variable over there, dot render D, and that D is obviously that context over there. And that's all you have to do to get your HTML context file rendered with the context of the email in there. And then we're going to be able to then call MSG multi-alternatives, subject text content from email to email. So this remains the same. And then after that, you just attach alternative. You can attach the HTML content in there, right? So now that HTML content is now that file over there that has been rendered with the context of the email over there using this template over there. That's really neat way of doing it, but it works. All right, and then once you've done that, you just call MSG send, and then it's done. Okay, so I wanted to test that this works, and I always recommend before you run your program, you test this as well, because you don't want to find that your emailing doesn't work properly inside of the application when you're doing other things already, including the databases and whatever. Okay, so that's why I specifically did all the database forms and everything separately first and made sure that that works. That's what we did last week, okay? So this week I want to focus time on the email system itself and make sure that it works, and then after that we'll combine it. When we know this works, then we can then put them all together, and it's easier to then troubleshoot them separately as opposed to trying and build everything at once. And then when things don't work, you're struggling to try and figure out, is it the emailing, is the whatever, then the email didn't send but the stuff is saved in the database, or the database didn't send and the email went through. I don't know. So I like to test things separately. So once you've done that, I'm just going to render like a simple file that I'm going to call basic.html. Okay, and then this basic.html file is going to have nothing on it. I'm just going to show a page, but I'll know that once I show this page, this whole code has run. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do. So in order to do this, let me see what I'm calling this test email. I'm going to let me just have a look here, because I think I've already got this in here. So nano users views.py. Okay, I do have this already in here. I've copied already this in here, but I think I changed something. Okay, I changed the email address that I'm sending to. All right, so let me just change that email address, scholaronline@gmail.com, and I think everything else should remain pretty much the same. All right, so this function I've already explained to you on the other side, so I'm going to close this and I'm going to save it. All right, views.py, and then I'm going to go and let me just reopen it again and just make sure that I remember what I called the function itself. I called it test email. Okay, so let me just copy it in there. All right, so I need to go to my urls.py file and create a sort of a root that will render this test email view or function, so that I can run that whole thingy and send myself an email and test that the email thing works. All right, so I need to do that. I need to nano Scholar app, and then I need to open urls.py. Right, so once I've opened that, I think I already got a path here for testing. All right, and I called it path test at the bottom over there. So you can you see it? I'm gonna try and see if I can take this up a little bit. All right, there you go. So if you look at this path that I'm highlighting over here, all right, it's called test, and it's users views.test. So I need to actually change this not to be users views.test. It needs to be users views dot test email. And I think I copied it. I'm just going to paste it. All right. And then the name is going to be test. And then we can then go to the root to the path called test. And if you go to the path called test, it's going to run that whole function. And you should actually send the email before it renders that basic HTML. All right. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to say save yes, like that. All right. And then I'm going to run this. All right, so let's go over there and let's just go back home to the home page and make sure that our website is running properly. All right, and then I just need to go to /test. Okay, so when I go to /test, let's have a look again. It's going to call this function test mail, and then it's going to go through all of this, and it should send me an email. All right, but then after it has done all of that, it's going to render this basic.html, which actually doesn't say anything. It's just like one line of code, HTML code. All right, so let's test it. All right, so it's basically just showing this one line. Your email has been sent successfully. All right, and so I need to go to my Gmail and check if the email is there. All right. So this is my Gmail. Recall I was here on my Gmail just now copying this, all right? And this email wasn't there, all right? It's just been sent 22:54, which is just this time right now. You can't see it over here because it's at the top of the whatever, but this is the exact time right now that this email has been sent. But let's just open it to make sure, right? So this is a test email. This is what exactly I'm saying inside of my, it sent the HTML file actually, because you can see this is styled like an HTML. This is HTML styling, all right? So it didn't send the text file, it sent the HTML file. You'll see that's the email.title, all right? The one that goes over here, this is a test email. It's over here what's in the .title. This is a test email, all right? Description, subtitle, and the message. We are sending this email from Python Django framework. We are sending this email from Python Django framework. We want to know all works well. Regards, careers portal. That's at the bottom there of my email.html. Regards, careers portal. Whatever. And at the bottom, you can then add your links. You know, you can add your LinkedIn, all your other social media over there. And this looks like a proper, you know, what you call it, MailChimp email, right? I actually got this template from MailChimp. So you can get a proper MailChimp template and just style it yourself in your own HTML. I mean, write your own coding in there and get a proper. And this is the kind of emails that I want to send to people when they're logging in. So I'm going to style this properly. Like when somebody logs in, I'm going to send them, okay, somebody is logged in, And you'll see I've attached an image as well. And how I did it was actually quite sneaky. I'll show you here. You'll see at the top, because sending images is also a bit of a mission, right? And I didn't send it as an attached image because some people do it that way. A better way of doing it is to host the image somewhere, right? So you'll see this is the image, and you see the image SRC is this HTTP host careersportal.png, all right? So I am running like a website where I'm hosting images. The website is just purely for hosting images, all right? So if you go over here and you copy this domain and you paste it, anyway over there, you will see it will take you directly to the image itself. There it is, all right? So I'm hosting this image off another website that I've got that I just host images on, right? And you can access the image through this URL, okay? So inside of your email template, instead of trying to attach an image, it's actually better to just send an image SRC of the way you are hosting it on the internet, all right? And the server on the other side will decipher that URL and display it, all right? And the client will have the option to download the image or not download the image. So when it comes to sending images via email, this is probably a better way to do it as opposed to the second alternative of actually attaching it, because the second option is to actually use the email code and attach the image inside of the email itself, which then means that the image has to go with the email, and then the email obviously becomes a larger email because now it's got an image as well that is going with it, and then that image is sent through the entire system. And this other way, you're actually only sending a link, and when the email gets to this other side, then the Gmail or whatever the email server the client is using will download the image itself directly from where you are hosting the image off the internet. All right. So that's probably a better way of sending images across. Okay. So now we know our email system works. Next, we're going to off the current system of creating a user profile, registration process, everything. We're gonna incorporate all the steps and all the places where we want to attach or send an email to the client, so that the client can be informed at every single stage what's happening with their registration process. And we're going to do that next. Okay, let's continue. Now, the first place where we would want to send a client an email is when perhaps they request to reset their password. Okay, this normally happens with the web application if your client has forgotten their current password, and they don't remember the password anymore, and they want to reset the password to a new one. All right, and then they would come to a page, you would call it like a forgot password page, and they would go in there, and then they would enter their email address, and then you would send them a link to update their password. And for me, I think an easier way of doing it is just to actually update the password for them, and then send them the new password, and then allow them to change it themselves off their profile page. Okay, so I think we're going to go for the easier option where when they forget their password, we're going to email them a new password, and then they can use that new password to log in. And I think that when we go through that entire process, you'll be able to figure out and see how this whole email thing works, and then you'll be able to use it for any other application within the registration process. Okay. So getting started, I've removed the email I've removed sending the email as a whole from the views file, because within the views file of Python Django, you really just want to just show your views. If you have any functions that want to run, like a function for sending an email, you actually want to put it in a new file. Okay, so go ahead and create a file called functions.py. Okay, so I've created a file over here, and at the top there, this is going to be the email where I'm going to write complex functions, including functions like sending an email, because it's going to take a bit of time to that whole writing of an email is a lot of maybe 10 lines of code, and I don't want to have those lines of code inside of my view function, because basically what you want in a view function is just all the context that you want to send to the front end. And then if there's a function, you actually just want to call the function, but the detail of that function, you can write it somewhere else, and then, display messages. You don't want a lot of things happening inside of your view file, all right? So at the bottom here, I've written a new view, function. Well, it's a view function. Yes, I've written a new view function for forgetting a password. So every time a client forgets a password, they will go to a page, and that page will be, we're going to create that HTML page. It's going to be called forgot.html. And when they get to that page, there'll be a form over there where they can enter their email address. And then we're going to process that form over here and change the password for them, and then I email them the new password. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the lines of code that I've written. I've written them off camera to save you time, like we normally do, but I'm going to take you through them line by line so you can understand exactly what I've done. Okay, the first thing that I've done is that I've created a new file called functions. Okay, and so go ahead and create a new file called functions.py, and then import all of the things that you need for sending an email. Okay, so the settings, we need the from Django core mail, we need that email multi-alternative. So go ahead and import that. And then from the template loader, we need the get template. That's what we're going to use to load our HTML template. And then I think we don't need that context. Actually, we can delete this. I thought I needed this, but I'm not using it anyway. Right. So it's just 3 imports that you need at the top of that email. All right. And then after that, after you've done that, there is a new function that I've written there. It's called forgot mail. All right, it's actually like a class. I mean, it's up to you how you want to do it. I mean, personally, I thought this would be the easiest way for me to write it, so that I can just define variables within the class, and then I can call the class, and then instead of writing all of this inside of my view function. Because, for example, things like your email heading, your email message, with the whole what goes into the email message, a whole lot of that will take a lot of space if I have to type it out all over here in the function. So I thought it would be easier for me to type it off as a class, all right? So I've created a new class called forgot email, all right? And in that new class, I have an init function. And in that init function, this is where you instantiate the class. You enter the password, the new password that the client is going to be required. And I've only done it this way so that I can sort of enter the new password when I instantiate that forgot email class, and then I'll have the new password defined inside of the class, all right? And then the other thing that I need to define is a subject, and then obviously remember that email object. All right, that email object that has the title, the short description, the subtitle, the message. This is everything that goes inside of your email HTML. Remember that mail HTML, object, or dict Python dict object that has the title, the description, the subtitle, whatever. I've defined it in this way. Okay, I've defined it as a function inside of the class because I want to be able to enter the new password over there. All right. So the way the email will read is that it will have a title that says your password has been reset. It will have a short description, a new password. It will have a subtitle, please find your new password at a careers portal, and then it will have a message. And if you look at the email, this is what goes in there. I think this is the title, and this is the short description, and then this is the message, and I think the subtitle goes somewhere over there, all right? I'm not sure, but double check your template, and it's really up to you how you want this. Maybe all of these title, subtitles, short messages might not be important, but I thought it's nice because they have different styling, and then I can sort of, and the email can look a little bit more professional. And if you want, with your email template, you can, the same way you've included that image over there, you can have images, you can do a lot with the email template. It's up to you. I've shown you the most basic template that you put together, but once you understand how HTML works and you have the basic template like this, you can edit it to have anything that you want. Just remember that your CSS has to be in it has to be inside of the HTML file itself, all right? Now, this is all I need to define for the dict email, object, and then that's it, right? So that's the forgot email class. It has all the functionality of the data that goes into the forgot email, function. But at the bottom over there, I've written the actual send email function. It's all in this functions file, all right? And this is now going to go through the logic of sending the email using this email multi-alternative class that we're going to import from Django core mail, all right? So this is exactly what we had on the other side, but we were writing this all out in a view function, okay? And that's not good practice. So I'd rather write it as a function in itself in a different file called functions, all right? And then this will be the send email function, and then I will enter the data into the send email function, and all of this data will come from the forgot mail class or the welcome mail class. And the reason why I've done it this way, and I've actually used two different examples to show you, is that then I can write the send email function only once, and then this function can be interchanged and used over and over again for multiple emails. And then the only thing I have to write multiple classes of is for the different type emails, okay? So when I want to send an email for forgetting your password, I'm going to use this class, all right? When I want to send an email for a welcome email, it will have a different subject. It will have a different, the description, subtitles, all of the data that actually goes into the email itself will be different from the data that goes into the forgot email. And any other type of email, whether it is an email for, when you're reminding people of something, whatever, all the data that goes into the email will be different. That's why I have it in a separate class. But the functionality of the send email function is the same. So I wrote it once, and then this is the only thing that I will replicate for different email types, you understand? And I'm only going to show you these two, and then you can replicate this method or the principle I'm showing you. You can replicate it for any other type of email that you want to use, all right? So once you've done that, then you have the class with the data that goes into it. Remember, the data is, in this case, we need to define the password, we need to define the subject, and then we need to define the email object. That's the one that has a title, description, subtitle, message, right? Then I'm going to write a new function that's called send email, and within this function I need to enter the email. This email is that email dict object, so I will have to it will be like a what do we call it, it'll be like a variable that we enter into the function when we call it, okay? And then we have to enter the email subject, and then we have to enter the to email. The to email is that the email where it's going to, all right? So once we've done that, From email is the same, so that's why I don't have to call it every time, because I can actually just call it from the settings, and that's why I imported settings at the top over there. And then the to email is defined, the from email is defined in our settings folder. All right, and then I have the text content. This is the text version of the email that I'm going to be sending. Okay, so this is exactly the same what we had before when we were doing the testing. All right, I've just copied and pasted all of that, so it looks exactly the same. And then after that, the HTML content is now when we're going to use that get template to actually render the template of the basic email.html. And this basic email.html is our HTML file that we have saved that has got all of this in HTML format. All right, so that is that HTML. And remember, then we need to then enter the context, and the context that goes into that is that email context, and that email is that email that comes at the top of a day. That will be the same that we've defined there, and when we call this function, we're going to enter it there, and then that's the email that goes there. But it's also that email short description that comes in there and comes in there. Okay, you understand? So once you've done that, you've got the HTML content, and then you have the text content. So you have two types of content that you are sending with this mail object. And once you've done that, then you can define the message object, and you can define it using the email multi-alternatives class. And as usual, it takes the subject in, it takes in the text content, it takes in the from email, it takes in the to email. And this to email, by the way, remember, it needs to be like a list. All right, and are we going to define it as a list there when we bring it, or you can do it as a list over here? It's really up to you, but make sure that when you put it in there, it is like a an array list. All right, then after you've done that, then you can attach the HTML content and specify that it is text HTML, and then you can send the message. So this is exactly what we had before. The only thing we've done is that we've taken that function away from our view area, so that we don't type all of that in here, because if we do it like that, it would mean that every time we have to, there's two problems with it. The first problem is that we would have to retype it in every single view function that requires an email. We would type all of this, what we've typed in here, we would have to retype it in here when inside of the forgot view function, and then we would have to retype it again inside of the registration message when you create a registration. If you want to send an email on someone who's creating a resume, we would have to retype it again, and then it would make this whole view file really, really long, but then it would have replicated code retyped over and over again. And every time you have code that is being retyped, that is replicated, it's bad practice. It's actually easier to then type that code once in one file and then just call it over and over again, interchanging the data that goes into it the way we've done that. So in this case, I've extracted the functionality of the email from the functionality of the data that goes into the email. I'll put that separately so that at least we can replicate that, but this doesn't have to be replicated. It can just be written once, and then we just input the data into that. You understand? But if you wanted to have custom email templates, like for example, you wanted, when you're welcoming people, you want to have a picture there, but then when you are just sending a reminder, you want to have a picture somewhere else, and you want to use different HTML templates, you might have to rewrite this function multiple times, but then you would do it inside of your functions file. All right, and then you would define this HTML, this email HTML over there. Where is it? You would have multiple files. You would have this basic email. You can create multiple HTML files. You could have basic email like I do in some other applications. Then I have a template for another type of email, a template for another type of email. And when you have time and you're running a big developer company, you're going to have the time to write to design a different template for each and every email that you send out. And that's what developers do. That's what they pay you money to do. But for this simplistic application, I'm actually going to just do one template that I'm going to be able to interchange and use the same template over and over again, just changing the content inside of the template. And I think that's going to be sufficient for my little web application. All right, so I don't need to be too complicated. No one is paying me for this, right? Now, once you've done that, now we have this file called send mail. We have the function called send mail, and then we have the welcome email class and the forgot email class. All right, so now what we do inside of our views file, we need to import it at the top there. All right, so you'll see underneath, I think the last time this is where we ended, we had the settings, and underneath the settings we had all of that email stuff. Okay, we don't need that anymore. I removed it and I moved it to that functions file. And then what we're going to import over here is we're going to have to import from, this is a new line, okay, from functions, from dot functions, because functions is now a file inside of the same directory as where our file for views is going to be. So that's why we have from .file. So it's the same as what we do over there. You can also say import star and import wildcard, or you can just import 111. I did it like this initially because I do it like initially so you can see what I'm importing. But later on, when I have multiple functions, I'm just going to import star to just save a lot of the space. But basically, I'm importing that welcome email class. I'm importing that forgot email class, and then I'm importing the send email function. These are all everything that's in here. I'm importing it from there. All right. Another way to do it is to just say import functions. Like you can just say import functions. And if you did it like that, that would mean you could say that, and then if you did it like that, it would mean you would have, every time you call it, you would have to call functions.welcome email, functions.send email, but that's a longer process. So it's actually easier to write it like this from functions import, and then you only have to call the class when you need it. All right. So let's look into the application of how we actually apply this, what we've called, right? So we've created a new view function called forgot. All right. This view function is the same as we've done this multiple times now, so I'm not going to go into details. It's the same as a create resume function. It's very similar to the register function. It's going to be a function of an HTML page that has both a post and a get request. So we have the if request is get and if request is post. All right. So similar to that, we have the same thing. If request is post and if request is get. So a lot of the function looks exactly the same as what you've seen before when I created the register function and when I created the function for that. So I copied and pasted it over here, and then I just changed a couple of things. Okay. The first thing you want to change is the form that you're calling. You're calling if request method is post, you're calling form forgot form. Okay, so we need a form that is called forgot form. That is a form that's going to display our email that the client is going to enter, even though it's just one input of an email that they need to enter. For us to process that email, you need to include it inside of a form. Okay, and so we need to create this form. All right, so we're going to go back to our forms. All right, and there it is at the bottom over there. I've created a new class called forgot form. Okay, and inside the new class, I'm going to call it I'm going to extend forms.modal form. All right, because I'm going to use the user model to create this. All right, so so it's forms.modal form, and the only variable or the only input that I need is the email input. Okay, and the email input is an email field, and the widget is a text input, and then this is the class form control, and the placeholder is email. Right, or you can say enter email. It's up to you how you want to do this. Enter email, but this will be the placeholder that's represented inside the file. Okay, and if you've been following along with us, this is how we like to show our email variables. It's a bit of a longer process of doing it, but we like it this way because we can then specify our attributes inside of the widget, and required is equals to true. That's important, and you can specify the maximum length because you don't want people to enter, like, because this is a page that people are going to be able to access even if they're not logged in, and so it probably is going to be susceptible to bots and people that are going to be messing up with your application. So perhaps you need also to specify a maximum length and give it some, I don't know what kind of protection you can give it, but that's why we have that maximum length in the and required is true, so that we make sure that there's something entered before somebody can submit this form. All right, and then you're gonna do, after you've done that, you'll have your class meta, and then you'll specify the model is user, and the fields, the only field that you want is email. Actually, you can even just do it like that and do that, because it's only one field. You don't have to, yeah, you can just do it like that. The field is email. All right, so once you've done that, you've specified your forgot form inside of your form. So this is your forms file. All right, I've specified the forgot form. Then I need to go into my other file, and then I need to then call the forgot form. But before I can call it, I have to import it at the top. Okay, so from forms import. But if you had used the wildcard and import everything, then you don't have to retype it every time. So that's why I like using the wildcard. After I start typing too many forms, then it's just easier, because then but if you didn't have it like this, you would have to basically import it at the top over there, like that. All right, so now we can access this forgot form. All right, and then we can check if the form is valid, and then the validity is going to check for, all the input fields are there and whatever. And we're going to do things slightly differently here because now we want to do a little bit more customization on our side. Okay, so instead of just saying form save, we're not saving anything like what we did initially when people were entering stuff and you had to save stuff because you were saving a class. We're not doing that in this case. Okay, what we're doing is that we need to actually extract that email. All right, so we need to go request.post and get the email from the request.post, which is what comes with the form over there. And then what I like is I like to do this lower and replace and do all of that. Okay, the reason why I do this is, I mean, people are gonna like enter emails whichever way they like. Somebody's gonna have like all uppercase, all lowercase, and I think Django sort of like, I don't know, I can't remember that it makes it all lowercase, but at the very least replace all the spaces so that you don't have the spaces. Somebody had left spaces inside of the email address. This is just processing the data coming in from the form front end, okay, making everything lowercase and getting rid of all the spaces. So this removes the spaces and this makes everything lowercase, and then you get your email properly, sort of in a way that you can work with, right? Then what you're going to do is that you've imported the user object, right? So this user is a user that comes from a Django models, all right? This is the user model, the same user model that we're using over here, all right? So we need to import it at the top over there, okay? And then we're gonna go into the user class or the user model, which means it goes into the database under the user, and it searches for through all the users that we have, and it looks for a user which has an email that matches the email that has been entered there, okay? So it will do user.objects_get, okay? So this specifically returns one object if it exists, all right? And if it doesn't exist, it will return none. So we go into our database and we are searching for a user that has an email that matches the email that has been entered over there, all right? And if that user doesn't exist, it will return none. Okay, so to check that the user has been returned, we're going to say if user is not none. That's how nice it is to write in Python. Basically, like you're writing, like a sentence. If u is not none, right? So if there is data inside of this fetch from the database, then we can do something with it, okay? If it is none, else, then we're gonna flash a message to the user, an error message that says we could not find a user that matches your email address, right? That's all we're gonna say to them, and then we're gonna redirect them to the home page, right? But if the user exists, we're going to create for them a new password, okay? Now, this is up to you how you really do this, but I think this is probably a better way to do it, okay? You can also just send them like a link where they can then go and be able to update the password themselves so they can pick a password that they like, all right? That's one way of doing it, but that's a little bit more coding involved, all right? This also works just as fine. You actually create a password for them, and the way I'll do it is that I will use a UID. Okay, so UID is a unique ID, all right? And then before I can use that, I have to import it. I have to import UUID4 at the top over there. And before I even import it, I have to, where's my, before I forget, okay, it's all the way over here. What is it doing so far away? All right, so let me put it there, and then I'll put this over there. This can be further away, okay? And make sure that I'm inside of my virtual environment, and every time I import a new class that I've never used before, I make sure that I install it as well. So just run pip install UUID like that, all right? You have to install it inside of your virtual environment, and before you run this, you make sure you are inside of the virtual environment, and then it will install UUID for you, okay? If you don't do this, you're going to have an error. It will say it cannot find the module UUID, okay? So this one, anything that's not from Django, you have to install it manually, all right? So once you've done that, you'll be using that UID to generate a new password, okay? And I'm going to show you what this function does over here, all right? So let's just call Python shell, all right, like that. Let's just call Python, all right? Once you've called Python, I want to just import UID4 over there, all right? And let's import it like that, all right? So I want to show you what UID4 does and what I'm actually doing over here, all right? So I am getting a UID4, okay, a string of a UID4. So let's just copy that and show you what a string of a UID4 looks like. I think you would have seen this before, but I'm just gonna paste it in there and you'll see it. It is like a long unique ID that has a lot of programming functionalities that you can use, because every time you call this, you are going to get literally a unique ID, and it's good for creating unique strings for a lot in your database. You saw we used this last week when we were adding an extra unique ID to our what was it, to our to our URL object over there. But we can use this for passwords as well. Okay, and remember last week I think we used UUID 0, because once you have this UUID, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different strings that are separated by but these minuses in between. All right, so if you split this on this a character, you will have a an array with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 objects. Okay, you can actually test that. So you can take this string UID like that, all right, and dot split, close, and split split with where the minus is. All right, so if you do that, you'll see that you have a string with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different elements, and then you can then pick either the first one or the last one. But for the password, I think we chose to pick the fourth one. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if you do all of this, all right, you copy, you paste that, and then you take the fourth one like that. All right, it's going to give you always the fourth part of the UID, which is the longest unique string of characters and numbers, and this makes a pretty decent password, right? So that's what we're basically doing over here. So I'm going to exit this. All right, so that is what we're doing here. Okay, so this is the string of UID, split at the minus and take the fourth one, and we're going to assign this to a variable called new password. All right, and then we're going to now call that forgot email class. Okay, this forgot email class is that class, forgot email class over there that we're calling from this function forgot email. And remember, it has an initiation function that we need to give it the new password when we initiate this class. All right, so that's what we're doing here. So basically, with classes, that's how you initiate them. All right, you call them as they are, and if they've got any variables that you need to input when you initiate, you input like that, and then you have this forgot that you can then work with it and call any function that exists inside of this class. So for example, then you can say forgot.email. If you say forgot.email, it's going to look for the email function inside of the forgot class. And if you go to the functions over there, you'll see this is the email function inside the forgot class, and then it will return this dict object. Okay, but it will return this dict object with the self.new password. All right, and this self.new password should be entered in that space over there. Okay, we're gonna test it and see if it works, because I think I might be reaching. But anyway, so basically, send email. You need to specify the email object. So the send email function is that function over there at the bottom. The first thing that you need to specify is that email object. That email object is the one that's going to go in there into the the context of the HTML file, but also it's the same email object that has the short description, the subtitle, and the message over there, right? So that's basically what we are entering there. And then we're going to call forgot.subject. And if you look at forgot.subject, over there, forgot.subject is just a string that we're calling, and it's going to be the subject of the email over there. And then the last one is the to email, and that's why we're including it as a string, as an array. So we have it inside of the square brackets. It's going to send it as a list. Even though we're only sending it to one person, you need to still include it inside of square brackets, because it's still a list. It's still one variable inside of a list, all right, because you have to specify it as that. Okay, the to email over there, let me see. Okay, the to email is this one. It's the user.email. So if the user is not none, the user.email is the to email that we're sending it to. All right, then once we've done that, then we set the password to new password. So this is now, we're basically calling the function set password. We are now changing the password of the user. All right, so we're going to send them that email first with their new password. Okay, we've specified their new password. All right, and after we send that email, then we set the password to the new password. So now we're actually changing it on the system, and then we save the new user. Okay, and then after that, we will flash the user with a message: your password has been reset. Please check for that, and then return the user to the login page. Or if there was an error with let me see, else if the user is not none. Okay, so we've already gone through this before, right? So that's basically all that we have to do with this function over here. And then the other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be, oh yeah, I forgot, I need to create this forgot.html page, all right? So I worked off the login.html, so just go and look at your login file, login.html file, just copy and paste that, all right? And then copy, and then we're going to have something to start with. And it will still extend layout 1. It still has block meta, but change the title at the top there, obviously from login to forgot or whatever it is, and the description, you'll have to put in a description later, but that's not important for now. All right, and inside your body, you're still going to have a form, all right? And don't worry about the class, you can leave it like that as a login form class. And then just make sure that you change everything from login to forgot, like at the bottom here, instead of saying recover login, just you say recover password, and then at the bottom create an account. So I've just changed the wording a little bit here and there, but the most important thing that you need to remember, that is the main difference, is that this one only has one input. Okay, the login form had two inputs. It had a username and a password, so we need to get rid of the password and replace the username with an email. Okay, because we're not taking the username we're not using the username. You'll see that when we are looking for the user, we are using the password. All right, I mean, we're using the email address, which is easier. Most clients remember their email address. All right, most clients will know what email address they used, and most clients don't even remember their username. Right, so that's why we're doing that. Okay. Then we are going to have a div, a form group, and inside that div, the label is going to say enter email, and then form.email, and then over there we're going to display the errors if they exist, and then we're just going to have a submit button at the bottom. Don't forget your CSRF token, that's very, very important, and make sure that your form has got a method of post. And this form is exactly the same as all the other forms we've done. That's why I'm not spending a lot of time on it. You can just copy and paste your login form and just like edit a couple of things here and there, and then you'll be good to go, right? So our form should be all right. Once you've made all those changes, you do the usual of copying and pasting. So you're gonna get this forgot form, and you're gonna go into our VPS private server. I'm gonna clear all of this, and then I'm going to nano inside of our users application, inside of the template, and then I'm going to look for forgot.html. All right, that's a file that we're going to call it, because we called it forgot.html inside of our inside of our view function. So we must make sure that we call the HTML the same thing, forgot.html. And then we enter, and you'll see I've already pasted it in here. So if it wasn't there and this file didn't exist, so just copy and paste it in there, and then you can Control X to close it. And then once that's pasted in there, the next thing that you need to remember to do is to enter this new forgot function inside of your views file, right? So you need to go into the nano users, and then you go into views.py, and then you'll see your views file, and then at the bottom over there you need to paste your forgot function. Okay, and then I think the only thing I'd forgotten over here is that I had login required, and that's not necessary. Okay, so somebody can go into when they say they've forgotten their password, they don't have to be logged in to do that. Okay, so you can just remove that login required. All right, and then I just need to double check here. To email. All right, so there's to email as well. Actually, let me do this. Okay, let me stop this, because I'm going to forget a couple of things. The best thing for me to do is to actually remove this existing file, because I can see already another mistake over there. So let's rm this existing file, and then let's nano the file again. All right, and then it will be a blank file. Then we can just copy and paste everything as it is, like here. All right, so I can just copy this whole thing like that, copy it, and then I can paste it in there. Then I'm just gonna go through this again and make sure that I've got it right, because this to email needs to be inside of a of square brackets. That's very, very important, and you're gonna get an error. And yeah, and I've got the email function as well inside of. So I didn't take you through it, but it's pretty much similar. We've already gone through our register function, but I've entered now sending the email over there. So these lines were not there before. I've just entered them, but this is exactly similar to what I've explained at the bottom here. All right. The only thing that I'm doing is that I'm getting the to email from the form, get the email. All right. And then I enter it in there, the to email inside of a list. All right. And then I welcome.email, but I initiate welcome over there, but then the welcome class, welcome email class, doesn't have an initiation, so you don't have to enter anything when you initiate it. If you look at our functions over there, you'll see the welcome email is just the data as it is, because there's nothing that we need to enter in this function. So that's why that's why it's initiated like that. It's just welcome email, open, close, like that. And then you have that welcome object that you can call the other functions like the email, the subject, all right? And then you can then send mail with that data in there, right? So these 3 lines is the only lines that we've added into this function, because what this will do now is that every time somebody registers a new account, all right, it's going to send them an email, and that email is going to look like where's our functions. The email is going to have all of this. It's going to have careers portal, welcome to careers portal. It's going to have this title, this short description, and all of that, so that at least there's some sort of communication that, hey, we are aware that you've registered with career portal. And later on we can expand this email and have more information about all the things people can do. Do you want to get a job notification, blah blah blah. We'll add all these functionalities as we build our application, but I think for now this is sufficient, because I wanted to show you 2 important things. How to actually write this function, but how you can also have multiple classes for different email to hold data for different email types that you can send, and all the different ways to do this. All right, so I've pasted all of that in here, and once you've pasted that, you can just then Control X and say yes to save this. And then the other thing that you want to do is to say nano users, and then you want to say functions.py. You want to now enter that functions file, all right? So nano users functions.py, and then you're basically just going to go in here and you're going to copy this whole functions file, all right, as it is, and then you're going to paste it in there, all right? And then you're going to say Control X. Okay, let's clear this. All right, so you're going to enter that functions.py file. What else do we need to do? We need to make sure that our forms, that we have, this form, because we typed it in here, but we need to make sure it's also inside of our VPS, all right? So the best way to do it as well is you can just copy the whole forms file as well, so that you don't forget anything out of this. And then you can say nano users application, and then you're gonna go into forms.py like that, and then you're gonna go and paste everything inside of here, all right, including the forgot form, all right, let me do this. So let me remove the file that was here before, because actually I haven't pasted it. I don't know if it has all of what I need. So remove that, and then you can nano that. Now it's empty, then you can definitely paste the forms. And as long as you can see that the meta form is already here, and I think I've already typed the experience form and all of that, but I'll take you through that later on. And then so Control X and say yes, all right. That's good. So you've got your forms, and remember, guys, I showed you this 5 steps of Django. Always go through this to double check things, but obviously if you miss something, your errors will remind you. But just so that you don't catch it at the error stage, make sure the model is there, the form is there, the view is there, the HTML file is there, and the URL path is there. These are all the 5 steps of Django. You've got to get all of this right. If you get your model, you get your form, you get your view, you get your HTML file, URL path. In this case, we've added a new step that is called, I'm going to put it in here. Maybe I'll put it at the bottom here. Okay. And I'm going to give it a different color. And I'm going to call it, let me see, style. Let's just give it a different color, like that color. And let's call it functions. Okay. Okay, this is something new that we didn't have before, because these functions can go to the views. So sometimes you'll have a functions file that is written to support your views, because you cannot type every single logic inside of your view document. So once you've done that, I'm gonna go back in here, and I think we need to go into our URLs. Okay, so let us do that. So to get to the URLs, we need to say nano Scholar app is our project directory, and then we go to urls.py like that. All right, so I've just entered a new URL over here. It's this one here. All right, and then this new URL I've called it forgot password, and then it's users views.forgot. This is the forgot view that I just wrote right now, and name forgot. It's very, very simple. That's all you do. You can copy and paste any of your other views and make sure you've got users views. If you would have it because you've used that file many times, just make sure you add the new URL path, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to run this, and then say Python manage.py run server. All right, and let's run it on port 8000. Right, if you've got no errors, this will show up, and then you can actually go to port 8000 and you can check out your we're going to go and look for that forgot password path, and there it is. Okay, and you'll see your forgot password path. Okay, it has the home button at the top, but you see we wanted to change all of our backgrounds. We don't want to see this images anymore. So actually let's do that very quickly. All right, let's look at our forgot.html. It's this one over there. Forgot.html extends layout 1. All right, so we need to go into layout 1 and get that. But let me just have a look at what we had on index. No, let me have a look at layout 1 first. Layout 1 is this one over there. Okay, and I want to see. Okay, so this is the section that has a background image. So it has a background image, it has a background image displayed inside of the HTML and not the CSS. And actually, that's probably a better way of doing it, right? So this background image over here, we're gonna have to use our background image that you wanna display. Okay, we can copy and paste the way we did it inside of the index file. So let's look at the index file over there, and inside of the index file I think we had a background image over here. If it is authenticated, there it is. All right, and it had it so let's actually just copy the whole URL like that. Okay, and copy that and have it and paste it inside of that. All right, so style is background, URL is that static app images, whatever, and make sure we load static at the top. All right, so that's good. So what I'm going to do is that this whole layout 1 file, I'm going to copy the whole file. All right, and then I'm going to stop this, and then I think let me just cd into Scholar app templates. This is where our layout files are. Remember, it's in the project directory. All right, so this is layout 1. Okay, is it layout 1? Yes. I need to rm layout 1. All right, and then nano layout 1. I just do that so I don't get the spelling wrong. All right, and then I can just paste that in there and just do a quick check. I think I'm good over there. Oh no, I shouldn't have done that. I think I had the messages in layout 1. I had the messages in layout 1, and I had the messages in layout 1, so it's fine. I've already removed the old layout 1. That's terrible. So let's nano, let me look at layout 2, okay? All right, I just want to get the messages. Yeah, for messages, this one over there, right? And then I can copy it from layout 2 and have it on layout 1. So let me actually paste it in here. I hadn't pasted it in here instead of a section. Just put it in there so that the next time I copy from this side, I don't forget it. All right. All right, and then we can close this. and go to open layout 1 again, and we can just paste it in the before block body. All right. And then Control X, save. That's fine. All right. Then we can clear this, and then we can run server again. So that's gonna be Python. Okay, let's get out of the templates first. All right. Okay, clear. Let's make sure our manage.py file is in here. That's good. So we're gonna do Python manage.py. It's gonna be run server. 8000 port, and all right, no errors. Let's just restart this and hope that our background image is there. Perfecto. All right, so we've got our background image, and we can now test this. All right, and I'm gonna test it in a bit, but before I test it, I want to test the whole process, and I want to make sure that I'm gonna get the registration email, because that also should be working. All right, so I should actually test it from here. All right, and create a new account. All right, so I should start over here, and let's register a new account. All right, and I'm gonna call myself I don't know, Zatosh Nakamoto, and I'm gonna use this I'm gonna use my Gmail, this one here. Okay, because I don't think I've registered this email address. So let's use that. You'll have an error if you used it, if you specify that it must be unique. The email would need to be. The username it needs to be unique as well, so I'm gonna have it as Zatosh. All right, and enter my password. Okay. A user with this email already, a username already exists. Okay, so I can't use this one. So let me use Nakamoto. All right. So actually, let's just yeah, let me use Nakamoto. So let me use Nakamoto, and then I have to enter the password again. Okay. Yay! Account was created for Nakamoto, and it's taking me to the login page, and we're gonna fix this. You see the HTML of the login page looks ugly. I don't like this. I want it to look like the register page. That means we have to do this login page manually, right? So we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We can do that manually and actually process the form like a manual form. Then we can then be able to specify our HTML the way we want it, but we'll do it at the end. But I don't like the way this login page looks. But before I log in, I actually want to check that I got my email, all right? So I'm going to go to my email address over there, and I'm going to go back to my inbox, and there you go. Yay! From support, careers portal, welcome to Careers Portal. So everything went well. So thank you for registering with Careers Portal. Careers Portal start your job search process today. And you have successfully registered with Careers Portal. You can now log into your profile and start creating a profile with thousands. This is exactly what I had in there. And if you have any issues, please email that. Doesn't this look like a proper professional email that you would get from a proper web application? That's what I'm teaching you here on Scholar Online, right? So now I can log in as Nakamoto. I think that's why I have the username there to remind myself what is my username. All right, so I'm going to log in as Nakamoto, and I can enter my password. But I actually want to test the forgot password, right? And you need to have a link inside of your login page that actually, don't have an account or the option for forgot password, all right? So let's actually do that. Let's go to our, let's stop this. All right, and then let's let's go into the users and go into users templates and login.html. All right, and I think at the bottom here where it says okay, so this is div class text center, all of this sign up. I'm just thinking, should I just have it underneath forgot password, you know, like that. So I can just copy this like that and paste. Just paste it underneath there. All right. It's really a mission typing of you know, Linux, but I think it's a little faster to do it like that. So I'm just gonna have another line in there. Enter another line in there. Let me just have a look there. Don't have an account, sign up. Why is this bigger than that? Let's see. Oh, text dark, font weight bold. Okay, so you can actually just remove that. Actually, this small that says don't have an account, this don't have an account, I can just remove that. Yeah, so this whole section here that says don't have an account, so it starts from that small, from this small to that small over there. I can just remove that, understand? So that I don't have that, and I only have the sign up, but instead of sign up, I will write something else. Okay, so let's remove all of that. Right. So instead of going to the register, it will be URL for forgot. Okay. Okay, and then I will say forgot password. Forgot password, question mark, and then if somebody's forgot password, the href will send them to URL for forgot, and so you can save this, all right, and say yes, all right, and then let's run our application again, all right. So inside of our login page, if we now restart our login page, I can be like, oh, I forgot my password, you know, forgot password, so I don't know what my password is. So I'm gonna click there, and it's gonna take me to, oh, forgot your password. Let us find your account first, enter the email address, and I'm gonna enter my email address, which is this one over here. Just remind myself what is that email address, and I'll put it in there. And let me just test that this works, and let's try to cover password. Okay, so we've got an error over there. Okay, so to fix that error is actually a bit easy, something I overlooked a little. Because if you go to our functions.py file, I'm doing something slightly different, and probably this is not the best way to do it, but you know, I'm recording, so I'm just sort of like, I just want to get something that works, okay? But I'll think about this later on and find a better way to do this, right? But if you look at our welcome email, the welcome email went without a hitch because the welcome email class only had like variables in it. Okay, so I was actually just using it like sort of like as a class that just stores data. Okay, and I was defining the data, and then I was calling it as welcome email dot welcome email dot email, and this was just data. But when it comes to the forgot email, I did something slightly different. Okay. I had to, within the email object itself, I had to specify what the new password is. You'll see your new password is, and then I have open and close curly braces. All right, and then I use a formatted string to specify the new password over there. All right, and then the way I get the new password is using the init of this class over there. So during the init, when you initiate the class, you're gonna have to specify the password, and then I have it on self.password, and then I can put it in there, and then it's going to be part of the message. And then now the email is no longer just a variable, it's actually a function. All right, so def email is a function, it takes in self. All right, and then that function, and then you can call self dot new pass, so that you can get the new password over there, so that inside of this message you can include that formatted string. Okay, so it's a bit of like gymnastics there, I know, but and this is how I represented it over there, and it's slightly different. So the welcome email worked without a H because it was just data, but over here this is actually a function. So when I call def this, I cannot just call it as the same way I would call that. I have to call it like a function. All right, and then this function returns the object. So this in itself is not the object. Over here, the email is the object. Okay, but over here, it is not an object. It's actually a function that returns an object. So over here, when I call the email, what I needed to do was actually to maybe create a new variable, and I called it email, right? And then I called forgot email as a function because this is actually a function, right? So I need to call forgot.email as a function, and this function is the one that returns the email object. Okay, then I can put the email object over here. What I had before was forgot.email like that over here, and that's wrong. Okay, so just go back into your file. All right, and over there under send email, you'll see under here, when we did the register, we had welcome.email like that. Okay, because the welcome.email is actually the object itself. All right, but when we do the other one, we can't do it like that. Okay, so instead of doing forgot.email over there, I need to actually say forgot.email as a function. Okay, and assign it to a variable, because then this function returns an object. Okay, then I take that object, and that's the object that I put in here. All right, or I could have just done it like that and pasted that in here, but actually for clarity, I think it's better to split these steps and have that and then have that. That's all the changes you have to do. So make those changes quickly. All right, and copy and paste, and I've already actually done it already. And made those changes, and then you go and you run your application again, and when it's running, run server. I'm going to go back to forgot password and restart that page, and then I'm going to test it again. All right, so let's go to my whatever, and let's just copy my email address over here at schoolonline@gmail.com. That's the email that I use, and then let's paste it in there, and then try recover password and see what happens. There you go. So you'll see that it's supposed to take us to the login page, and it's supposed to flash this message: your password has been reset successfully. There you go. Your password has been reset. Check your email for details. And this is a flash message. It only appears one. If I refresh this page, it won't appear again. All right. And then I can now go and check my new password. So I'm going to go to my emails. All right. And then I'm going to go back to the inbox, and then I'm going to have a look. There's my careers portal email, and you'll see over there your password has been reset. Your new password is that over there. All right, so let me copy that. If you did not request this password, please contact support. So this is the text message that I've typed over here saying, where is it? Under functions. Your new password is this. If you did not request, it's just everything that I typed in there. All right, so I'm going to copy this new password, and then I'm going to just, what was my username? Nakamoto, I think. All right, that's my new username, and I'm going to paste in the password, and let's check that it works properly. There you go. So I've been logged in, Nazatosh Nakamoto. This is my email address, Kolo Online. So they updating your password methodology works. Okay, so now what we've done so far is figured out how to send emails directly from our Django app, and you can do that. You can figure out every other place inside your code where you want to email your clients, and we're gonna get to this again in the future when we start to email people when they're requesting for notifications of job searches. That's gonna be interesting. We're gonna get to that. I don't know whether it will be lecture 100, but we'll get to it eventually, and I'll show you again. We'll revisit that email function again to do that, but I think for now it's sufficient to send an email when the person first creates an account, and then to send an email when they request to change a password. I think that will be enough, and I'm not going to do the email for verifying your email address. I will get to that when people actually start to apply for jobs, and we're going to then say, okay, before you can apply for a job, then we're going to do the check for have you verified your email address, and we'll get to that later. Okay, now what I want to do is under the resume page, so I'm going to log out of this one, and I'm going to log in as somebody else. I'm going to log in as Scolo. Is it Scolo? I think I want to log in as with an account that actually has created a profile. That's the one. All right, this is not a real email address. That's why I can't use it to test my email functionality. I want to, on this view resume page, I just want to create the classes for education and experience. I think we created the classes and also the forms just so that we can add the education and experience, and then we can complete the profile page once and for all. And then later on, I think next week, we're going to get to populating our jobs class and with actual data, and we're going to figure out how to get data for jobs. I think maybe initially we can start with scraping other websites, right? So it's going to be interesting. Next week we'll do that, but for today let's just complete this, and then we'll be done for today's lecture. Okay, so let's go through the education model. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the education model because I've already gone through how to create models in Django in great detail in previous videos, and I don't want to waste more time. But the education model is going to be a model that we're going to create to capture, the detailed information with regards to education, data on a resume. So we're going to capture things like your institution qualification, the level of the qualification, the start, the graduated age, just sort of variables that are related to your education experience, all right, or your education sort of qualifications, all right. So this is the variables that we've chosen. Okay, the institution is going to be a character field, the qualification is going to be a character field, the level is going to be a character field with choices, and then we're going to have these choices over here, and we're using sort of South African qualification standards, and then we have like sort of the levels like from 5 to level 8, where your level 8 is your doctor's degree and your level 5 is your certificate, and then everything else in between, all right. And then the year graduated is a date field, the major subject is a character field, and then there is a date created, which is going to be a default of time zone. Now this we won't input in the actual form itself, it will be inputted automatically as a now. And we don't have all of what we had before, overriding the save method and all of other things, and your what you call it, like the slug field. We're not going to do any of that because actually as we create the date, as we create the education class, we're going to be creating it with a foreign key of resume. So every time we create the education, we have to sort of create it for a certain resume. Okay, so each and every single education will belong to a resume, so it will be sort of like a sub, it will belong to a resume, and that's how we're going to be able to then be able to connect it to a user, because each and every single resume, as we know, belongs to a user. All right, so that's how I've chosen to do it. It's really up to you how you want to do it, but let's try it this way and see if it gives us what we want. Okay, if it doesn't, we can always change it in the future. And programming does involve a lot of trial and error, and I have like sort of broken down models in the middle and started everything from scratch when it doesn't work the way I expect, but you have to sort of try it out and see what it gives you. Then we've added the string function where that will be called when we want to print an instance of this education model. And for that, I've sort of like just decided to have it like the qualification, the first name, and the last name. So it will sort of say, whatever the qualification is, it will be like, I don't know, BSc in engineering for, Scolo Online. Because the first name will be the user, resume user first name, resume user last name. And this resume is obviously what is a resume? The resume is what do I have in here? Okay, the resume is that foreign key over there. All right. And so that's pretty much what we're going to have inside of our model. And remember, every time we create a model, we have to run make migrations. And I'm just going to run it just to make sure that I have not forgotten to run it. Okay. And to run make migrations, you just sort of go Python manage.py and you just say make migrations like that. Okay. All right, let's see, we're not in the right directory, so let's cd out of here and let's make sure we are in the directory where manage.py file is, and then I'm just going to copy that and paste it. All right, no changes detected, so I've run make migrations before. That's what you want to see, and if you're not sure, you can always run it again. And so then I'm going to migrate manage.py migrate, just to be on the safe side. All right, nothing to apply. All right, that's okay. All right, but if you make any changes to your model file, please always remember to run make migrations. Then once you finish doing that, you also need to then go to your class, your users. So let's cd, actually let's open nano users, and then you need to open the file that is called admin.py. All right, this is the file for the admin panel, and then you just need to make sure that you've registered all the classes. Okay, so I had already registered this before because I knew I would create these classes. Actually, I had already created them. Okay, so you import from models, education and experience, and then you register them over here. All right. So once you've done that, then you're good to go. And I'm going through the education class in detail, but I won't do that for the experience class. But I want you to create it yourself, okay? From everything you've seen, what I've done here, all right? This is also part of the learning process. So think through what should be in the model, okay? So the same way I've done it, I just want you to go and do the same for the experience class, all right? Then once you've done that, we're going to go to the forms, all right? And inside your forms, we're going to go through the exact same process again. And again, I'm not going to go through this in detail. If you know what your model file looks like, you just basically work off the same fields except the date and the resume. So that's what we're going to do for our form as well. We're going to create a form that is called experience form, and it's going to be a model.form, and then we're going to add all our fields, and then we're going to have class meta, and the class meta is the experience, and then we're going to sort of like pull out all of the fields that we want in the form. All right, then once we've done that, then we go to our views.py file, and at the top from forms we import everything, and from models we import everything. Okay, so that's done. So what I will go through in detail is the actual view function, because I think that's important. But before we go through the view function in detail, if you remember, the way we were displaying our detailed view was using a class-based view. All right, so we're going to do things differently now with the forms. We're going to go back to a function-based view. All right, so if you go back to our view for our view file, we had that resume detailed view that we created, and a class-based view was a really nice way to display something. All you had to specify was the model and the template name. All right, but now we can't do that because we actually want to process forms. We want to get through the form, we want to post the form, we want to do a lot of other things, we want to post more than one form. Okay, so we're going to go into what we call a function-based view so that we can write all of those functions. All right, so before we can do that, we need to go back to our URLs and change that from that class-based view to the view that we're going to create. Okay, we're going to call our view resume details. Just remember that, right? So we need to open Nano, and our project directory is called app, and then inside there we're going to go into the urls .py file, and we need to change the URL to point to the new view function that we're recreating. All right, so inside of our URLs, you will see that we had inside of the detail view, that's the one which has the slug over there. All right, so it was users view, and it was the slug, and then it was calling the original class-based view. So we need to change that. I think I've already changed it in here. All right, so you need to say users view dot resume detail. Okay, so that's the only thing you need to do. I think over here we had users view dot resume detail view as view. All right, so you need to remove that and just say users view dot resume detail so that it shows like that, and then keep everything else the same. So the only thing you're changing is the view function. Instead of the class-based view that we called before, we are going back to calling a function-based view because we're going to write a whole lot of function code in here. Right, so once you've done that, remember it's taking in a slug as an argument. All right, so we actually literally have to bring the slug into our function-based view so that we can find the specific model that we're talking about, because now we're doing things manually. All right, so what we need to do over there is we call our function def resume detail, and then it takes in the request as an argument, and then the second argument is going to take is your quarks, whatever, your slug, which is the one that's over there, that's that slug over there. Then you just sort of put it like that. You can, if you want, you can say slug is equals to slug. It's up to you. But if you just say slug, that's also fine. It will just know that the second argument that goes in there is the slug. All right. And we need the slug obviously because we are going to use the slug to call our instance detailed view instance, because every time somebody calls a detailed view of a resume, they want a specific instance, there's a specific sort of a class of that resume, and the slug is going to tell us, is going to help us to go into the database and find that specific instance that's been called. Right, so we're going to call this obj, and we're going to go into the resume class. If you remember, this function over here is the same one we used when we were finding our email. Remember there when we went to inside of our forgot function, when we were trying to get the email that was used, when we were trying to find the user that is associated with the email that was entered so that we could change the password. I think we called, we said user objects get email, where get user get the object where the email is equal to the user email. We're sort of using the similar function Over there, we say resume, get an object where the slug is equals to the slug that's entered over there. That's basically what we're saying over here. We're going to the resume class, into the resume database, and we are pulling out a resume instance object where the slug is equals to the slug that would be given at the top there. So we're going to be able to get an instance of the resume class with a matching slug if it exists, okay? And in this specific case, it's going to have to exist because it's going to be called from a, this is going to be coming from a link, and the link is going to obviously come from a different, it's going to be coming from a different page where it was, listed on the object itself. So most likely this is going to exist, okay? If it doesn't exist, you can sort of write code to figure out what to do if this obj is none, all right? You're probably going to get an error currently in this function, but for now I'm going to assume and for simplicity to make this function simpler, but when you code this for real life, you're going to have to preempt people that are using your application. People are going to be putting in everything and pulling all sorts of strings, and perhaps they will end up with a URL that doesn't actually exist. So you have to be able to say if obj is none, you have to handle that exception so that your application doesn't crash. Maybe you serve a 404 page, or maybe you tell them and you pop a message that says, okay, this doesn't exist, please try something else. But you have to handle that exception. But we're not going to do it now to save time, all right? Then we are going to we're going to what is the word, we're going to specify what the context is, and then we're going to just have it as an empty object, because in this specific case we're going to have multiple things that are going into the context, and the first context is the object, and the object is going to be the obj. There's a specific reason why I called this object obj, because remember we've already created this HTML file, all right? This HTML file is already created with object as the context that we're talking to, all right? So it's easier for me inside of my views to call that what is fetched from the database object, all right, inside of the context. Then I don't have to change my HTML file, all right? My HTML file is going to be object dot whatever it is that comes out of the database. And obviously this is if this obj is not none, okay? This is going to give us an exception if object is none, but in this specific case we going to assume it's not going to be none, and if it is none, you probably have to write code to handle that exception. For now, we will have two different things that are happening in here, because we want to create a form that is going to be used to submit the education, and we're going to create this form inside of the detailed resume page. And why am I doing it like this? And this is up to you how you do this, okay? I don't want to create too many different pages. I don't want to create a specific page for each and every single class, all right? I want the sort of the education to appear seamlessly connected to the resume, okay? So I don't want the user to figure out this is the resume page, this is the whatever page, this is the object, this is the education page. In reality, when you use the application, it needs to be seamless, okay? So the user is going to be in their resume detailed page, and then they want to enter an education experience. I want them to just be able to click on a button and then they enter the education experience. The fact that it's a completely different class, they don't know that, all right? I need to sort of seamlessly put that into the application to get the application to work the way the client would expect it. And I'm going to show you inside of the HTML how that is going to be put together. But I am going to have the form on the same page where the resume detail is being displayed. This is why I moved away from this class-based detail view to this function view, so that I can do all of these shenanigans in one place, all right? So I want to be able to call in the detailed object, but then I also want to then process the form for the education on the same page, all right? So I'm going to have a post request and a get request for that, all right? And if the request is post, this is the same. I just copied and pasted over there, and I changed a couple of things, all right? The form that we're talking to is going to be the edu form. So in this specific case, I've called it something else. I didn't call it form. You'll see we always call it form. But I'm going to have two types of forms on this page. So I have to sort of give it unique names, or else it's going to clash, all right? So I'm going to create also the experience form on the same page. So I'm going to have two forms, and then I can't call them both forms because the data will clash. I need to actually give it a unique name, all right? So that's why I'm calling this an edu form, and when I do the experience form, I will call it maybe exp form or whatever, but we'll do it later. So for now, the edu form is just the education form, and then it's a request request.post, because it will have a request.post because it will come from a request method is equals to post. Then after that, we're going to go into the form is valid. All right. So the first thing, if the form is valid, we are going to save it without committing it. All right. This is the same thing we did when we're doing the registration. We saved it without committing so that we could set the username. The user, foreign key. Same thing that we're going to do here now, right? We are saving it without committing it because we want to set what the resume is, okay? So because remember when we created the class, we had the foreign key of resume, all right? And that can actually, the user won't be able to select it on the form itself. So what we're going to do is that we're going to then specify what the resume is, okay? So we save that O, all right? And then object. And then after we save it, we're going to say o.resume is equals to obj, okay? And this obj is that object at the top over there, all right? So I'm specifying that this object, that is the object, the resume that comes from that slug that we collected from the database, which is obviously at this point not none, must be saved as a resume for this specific education form, that is instance that is being submitted. Then after that, we can save it, and then we can flash the user a message, yes, resume was updated successfully, and then we are done. And if there's errors, that will show, and so forth and so forth. So the form is exactly the same as the form that you've seen before. The only real difference with this specific route is that we are actually having a detailed view showing up, and then we're then using that slug of that detailed view as well to find and fetch the detailed view that is going to be associated with the education form that we build. Because every time we build an education instance, we have to specify the resume that education class belongs to. And you'll see why this is useful, because we're going to be able to call that same education class instance in that detail page and then show it to the front end. All right. Then once we've done this, I want to work on the HTML form, and I want to show you the HTML form. Remember, at the end we just had education. All right. I'm doing something interesting. I'm going to use modals because for the form. Okay. So I want the form to be filled in a modal format so that it's sort of it can be done all at the same time. And for that, I went to Bootstrap, and you can just go to Bootstrap and search at the top there for Bootstrap Modal. All right. So I found a modal, all right, and this is the code for a Bootstrap modal, all right. Summarizing it and what we're going to be doing here, a modal is like a button like this that you would press, and when you press, something, like it pops up and it dims everything else, and then you can focus only on a section of code at a time and do all of that while the rest of the page is sort of blank. And you can do this quick, and when you're done with that, you can save or whatever, close the modal, and then you go back to your original HTML page. And I think this is a useful way of submitting this form, because I want people to, while they are on the detail page, to be able to click on a button and a modal pops up with a form, and then submit the form for the education. And then once it's done, they go back to the same detailed page. You understand? So that's why we're doing it like that, right? And if you look at a modal code, so I'm gonna go there to launch demo modal. All right, you will see there's a modal title and whatever that goes in there, and then the bottom where the buttons are at the bottom there. You need a button first of all. The button is the one that when you press this button, it launches the modal. All right, and you'll see inside of Bootstrap code, this is the button code over there. And whatever that goes into the button launch demo modal is going to be written over there, and then you can pick the type of button that you want, button primary. But very important, you have to specify that the data toggle is a modal, and then you have to give it a data target. Okay, the data target is hash something, whatever. This you can call this anything that you want, but it needs to be unique inside of your HTML page, because it needs to match the ID of the modal. All right. So once you've done that, you're going to have another div underneath it, and inside that div, you're going to create your modal, all right? And then the div needs to have an ID, and the ID of that div, whether it's example modal, must match the data target, because this button needs to know if you press it, which modal must it open. And this is especially useful, and it will be in our case where you have more than one modal per page. The page needs to know which modal to show. So each modal will have an ID. and then the data target must match the ID. All right, those are the most important things when it comes to dealing with Bootstrap modals. All right, you have to have the button and the div itself, and then you need to remember the ID. They must be the same. All right, then after that, everything inside here looks like a typical HTML. You will see that you have a content there, you have a header, and the header is where you have the modal title. So if you open that, this is the modal title. It's inside of the header. This is the body. This is the footer. All right. So this is the body over there. Currently, there's nothing in the body, and the footer, you have those two buttons. All right. So where you see these three dots, dot, 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 is where you're going to put your content. And you can put any content that you like. We specifically want to put in a form. So we're going to put in our form in here. Okay. But actually, we're going to expand it and not have it in here because we want this button to submit the form. All right, so we want the end of the form to be somewhere over there, so maybe the form must start somewhere there, so that the end of the form is there, so that this button, we can have it as a type submit, and then that when somebody clicks it, even though it is a button, it will be a type submit button, and it will submit the form, and then we will have it as a form at the top with a post. So basically that's what we're going to be doing here. All right, not too complicated. So you copy and paste this. That's what I did, and then I copied it, and then I created the button. This is the button that we're going to be using there. So we had only previously in our code, we ended up with education and the exclamation marks. So after that, we're going to enter our button. All right. So this button is going to be a type button. All right, and then the class is just going to be a class modal. A class of secondary outline. All right, and the only other thing that I've done in here, I've just added a, like a material icon of plus, so that it can just give it a bit of flavor. All right, and if you want to know a little bit more about, material design icons, you can actually, I'm going to link this in our description below. All right, it's a page from GitHub. It's a very nice page, and I use it a lot to sort of have to reference your material icons, right? And this template we're using uses material icons, is already in the CSS, which means you can use it anyway. You can use any of these material design icons, and they are free to use. All right, and they're really nice, and they've got an icon for just about everything that you can need in your website. Okay, so I'll link this below, and provided you're using the material design icons inside of your CSS, then you can do this. And the template we're using has it already, so we don't have to reinstall. If you don't have it in your template, then you have to install it from the CSS. All right, but I already have it, so I want to install it. Then you can just call it inside of a span and specify specifically which type of icon it is. And I want an MDI plus inside of the button. All right, so this actually is inside of the button. All right, so the icon will be inside of the button, and then I'll have the plus, and then add education. So it should be like a plus sign, and next to the plus it should be add education, to again prompt the user that, okay, we are using this button to add an education. And when they click that add an education button, the modal is going to pop up, and it's going to have a form on it, right? So that form is the one that we have underneath here. You will see this modal. I decided to call it ID add education. So this ID add education is going to be the same as the data target on the button over there, so that when you press this button and that is the data toggle modal, it understands the modal that it needs to open is the add education modal. All right, then inside of the add education modal, I added a form. All right, and the start of the form and the end of the form is over there, and I had the end of the form outside of the class of the button, so that I could use one of the buttons as a type submit, and that is the button that says save changes. So if we go back to our modals over there, this button over there that says save changes, I made sure that the form ends after this div over there. All right, and then you just have to match it at the top, that the form is on the same sort of level of divs. All right, and then you will know that when you click this button to save changes, it will also submit the form. All right, and then you'll see that form closes there, and then where the form opens at the top over there, the most important thing to specify is your method post. Actually, you don't need a class, and the action we haven't been using the action. It will sort of just submit it to the same URL that we're at. All right, and then very, very important, do not forget the CSRF token. And then after you've done that, then you're going to do it like a normal form. All right, inside of the modal body. So inside of the modal body over here, All right, this is where I started my rows. So I started with the div row, and then I just use column 12. So column LG12 is gonna take the entire space, the entire available space, and then we'll have each and every single layer, or what we call it, input of the form, taking up the whole space. All right. And I'm doing this manually, so it's a whole lot of coding, but by now you should be used to this. We've been doing this manually from the beginning. We have to actually, render the label, we have to render the actual part of the form, and render the errors and everything, and make sure that all of these variables that you're talking about here match the variables inside of your form, and that you don't leave anything out. That's basically all you have to do inside of your HTML. All right, then once you've done that inside of your HTML file, again, we're going to copy this entire candidate's profile, whatever, HTML, and paste it inside here. Okay, so I'm going to go Command X and close this. Let me just list and see where I am. I need to go to CD users, templates. All right, and I need to list everything in here, and the template that I want is this resume detail. All right, so it's this template over here. So I'm going to nano that template and open it up, and I'll just show you that I've already pasted this form at the bottom here. All right, so it's just what I was showing you. I've already copied and pasted it in here. So I'm going to close this and CD out of there. All right, and then I am where my manage.py file is, and then I'm going to run server again. Okay, so to do that, I need to do Python manage.py run server. All right, and then I'm going to run it on 008000. All right, then I'm going to go to my detail page, my resume detail page, and then I'm going to restart this. You can see it's already there because I sort of tasted it already, but let me just restart it and show you. The page looks exactly the same, because the only thing I added is the button with the plus sign. We need to figure out how to make this plus sign look a little bit more on the same level, but it's not bad. So this plus sign is that MDI plus that we got from the material design icons. Okay, the MDI plus. Okay, so that's what's showing over there. And then we used a button, a secondary outline. That's why when you click on it, it sort of, looks like something is happening. All right, I like that. And in fact, if you like, you can even add a tooltip, and you can go and search for tooltips over here, and you can figure out how to add a tooltip, because that's really nice. People know this button is doing something. All right, then when you click on it, it's going to call on your modal. All right, so it's going to call on your modal, your name of institution, qualification, and all of that, and then you should be able to submit all of this, and then it should be saved inside of the database. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, so name of institution, I'm going to call this university. Okay, so the issue over here is return redirect request.url. So if I look at my code over there where the views is, I think I'm trying to return request.url. So the error happened over here. So I could actually just change this and return the URL, return the same page. Okay, so I want to, what do we call this, resume detail. Let me just close this and then have a look at, at Nano Scholar app, and I want to have a look at urls.py. All right, I just want to see what is this called, resume detail. Okay, all right, so I need to redirect to resume detail. Actually, let me copy it as it is, so I don't make a spelling error. So redirect to that. All right, and keep in mind that resume detail takes in a it takes in a an argument, so you actually have to specify the argument as well. All right, so you just put a comma there and say slug is equals to slug. Okay, like that. And slug is equals to slug. It will actually take the slug over there because that slug goes into the function over there. All right, so I can actually just copy this as it is. All right, and then I can close that, and then I can nano and open users views.py, and I can just go underneath here under create resume, no resume detail, I mean. And I just need to sort of in here, all right, go over there and just let me see, where did I copy the whole thing from the return? Yes, so I need to go all the way to return and paste it like that. Return slug is equal to slug, and yeah, I think that's fine. So let's close that, let's save that, and then let us then clear this, and then let us rerun Python manage.py run server. All right, 8,000. All right, and then I'm just going to check something here. All right, I'm gonna restart this. All right, so we are resume updated successfully. Okay, that's fine. But what I want to see is what I want to check is if the data is actually in our database. Okay, so I'm going to go into the admin panel. Okay, I'm going to go into the admin panel, and obviously I can't log in with this user, so I need to log in with a different user. All right, I want to log into the admin panel, and then I want to go into education. All right, and I just want to check that. There you go. BSc Information Technology for Scholar Online. That's how we're printing it out, remember. So I just want to check that it's there. So even though we had an error, but remember that we had the error at the, when we were redirecting. And technically, the error happened after the save had happened. So this save had already happened, and the error happened on this line over there, right? So basically, all of this had happened successfully, and provided the redirect had gone successfully, we would have redirected properly into resume detail. All right, but basically we have it here. All right, so this is a Scholar Online, whatever. This is my this is the person that's associated with that, and I could change if I wanted to change it here, because I could edit that there, but I'm not going to edit it. I just wanted to make sure that within our database that information was there. Okay, so what we want to do now, and I'm going to write the code off camera, is to display this information over here, over there. Okay, so back in if we go back to our profile. Oh, okay, so now I've logged into somebody else, and I need to log out because I don't have a profile for Bertha. Okay, I need to log out and then log back in, but I wanted to go to so let me log in as Scolo. All right. Awesome. So this is the resume detailed page, all right? This is where the form is, all right? What I want is I want to add a form, and as soon as I finish adding a form, when I reload this page, actually when I display that form information over here as well. So inside of our resume detail, function-based view, I also want to collect all the resumes that are associated with this user, so that I can display them in the front end, so that I can display them over here, so that every time somebody adds the education, it actually, as soon as I finish adding it, I collect it in the back end, and then I display it there again, so that it shows and it's seamless. So you're showing two classes on the same page, all right? So I'm going to write the code off camera, and then I'm going to show you in a bit. Okay, there's a couple of changes that you need to make to your resume detail function to be able to display all the education instances that are associated with, the current user who is owning the current resume, all right? So you need to I'm gonna link this as well, maybe in the description, but it's very easy to find. You can just Google Django, querying data sets and Django database queries and all that. Because what you want is to figure out how to make queries to the database that it pulls out the data that you want. So what we want to pull out from the data is we want within the class of education class, we just want to pull out all the education instances that have been entered for the current resume. All right, because every time we enter an education into the database, we have to specify the resume that that education must be associated with. So you want to pull out only the educations that are associated with that resume. So we need to use the filter function. All right, so we're going to call it educations. Okay, I've decided to call it educations. Doesn't make sense, but educations is the education class object. So the same thing over there, but instead of getting something specific, because when you get something specific, you only get one object in return. We want to filter. We want to filter every from the whole database where the resume, remember the resume is a variable. If you look at our models here under education, we called it resume. That's why we have that as resume. All right, so we want to get the resume that is equals to obj, and obj is this object over there that that we got from the database for the slug that comes into there. Okay, so the slug that we get into our view function enables us to pull out the instance of the object that is associated with a slug. Okay, then for that, instead of that object is an instance of the resume. We then want to go into the education's database and pull out all of the education's instances that are associated with that a resume object. All right, this is going to return to you a list. All right, it's going to return to you a list in this format. All right, inside open and close brackets, which means you can iterate through that list. All right, but what we're going to do for now is just to enter it into the context. Okay, so we're going to call it educations and then just enter that, or else you can even just copy that and paste it over there. It would be the exact same thing. All right, so you could like delete that, X that, and put it over there and say educations is equals to that. All right, but I want to do it like that. It's fine even if in two different steps it does the exact same thing. So this is all the lines of code that you have to add inside of your view function. All right, but then you need to then figure out how to display these educations inside of the HTML. So that's also very simple. We're going to go to our HTML. All right, and instead of our HTML, we want to display it just next to the button. So I think we had a button over here. Where's our button? We had the education button that calls up the modal, the add education modal. All right, this is that button over there. Just underneath the button, I have some Python code. The first thing is I want to check if educations. All right, so what this will do is that it will check if there is anything inside the education's context, if it exists. All right, so the education's context is going to be a list, and remember, if nothing gets pulled out of there, it will be an empty list. All right, and then if you call if educations, nothing will be there. So if it's an empty list, this whole thing will not display. All right, but if there's nothing inside, if there is something inside of the list, all right, then we iterate through the list and we say for education in education. So this is just a check to make sure that this doesn't render if there's nothing on the list, because it's going to look weird on your HTML. All right, then in case if there's something in there, we're going to iterate through education in education. So we go through the whole list one at a time, and then we're just gonna show this. All right, so this is a column 12. All right, and inside the column 12, we then just displaying that component wrapper. It's the same component wrapper we used at the top over there with the shadow. So I basically just copied and pasted that. All right, and then this is a title that I use. I want the title to be the institution. So it will sort of show like, oh, this is the institution where that qualification was gotten from, and then all the different things that come in there. So I want you to display the qualification is that, the level of education is that. So this education is that education over there, all right? So education dot, these are all the variables that go into the model. So education dot institution, the qualification dot level, start date, end date, these are all saved in there, all right? So sorry, this is the HTML. So basically that's where I get all of that from. So what I did is that I just displayed a row, and inside the row I have two columns, then I have another row, I have two columns, then I have another row, and I have two columns. Okay, and then I'm displaying all the data. I think there's 6 variables, there's one on the heading, and then there's 5 different variables I'm displaying over there. And then I just added a new button there that says button danger and says delete qualification. Currently you can see the button is not really wired to anything. It's just an empty button. This is your homework for the day. Okay, so once we're done with this part of the of the HTML that's going to display our education class or instance, we can then just do what we normally do: copy this entire file, all right, and then let's paste it inside of our virtual machine where we're running the code. And I think this file is located inside of the users so we're gonna cd users template, all right, and I think it's that resume detail. All right, so you're going to remove that resume detail and then we're going to replace it with the current one. So I'm going to say nano, let me just copy that and paste it in there, and you'll see at the bottom, I think I've already done it, so just make sure that you do it as well. So on top of the form, just before the form, where the button is, after the button, no, before the button, sorry, so this is where the button is, the education button, and just after the button we're going to display this section where if the educations exist, and the educations is your it's this what we call it, context.educations, all right. If it exists, and then it will display for education and educations, it will display all of this, what we want to show over there, all right. So once we're done with that, we're just going to do Control X and we're going to close this file, and we're going to cd out of here, and then we're going to go into our nano. We're going to open views.py, all right, because we are in the Control X, it's nano views.py. All right, and then we're gonna go again and have a look over there and make sure that for resume detail that we have that pasted those new lines of code that we recently just added. All right, so Control X, we're gonna close that, and we're gonna cd out of here and make sure that we are in the manage.py root of the file, and then we're going to run our server. Okay, so to do that, you need to go Python manage run server, all right, that's what you need to do, and then we're going to run it, and then after that we need to go into the detailed page. All right, so let's go to our resume, and so this is the users detailed page, and let's just refresh this. All right, so this is where the button is. There you go. And after the button, you've got you're displaying if there is an education instance that's been added for this resume, it will be displayed over here, and this is the details that we just displayed over there. That we just entered into our background. Okay, so we're going to test this form again and actually enter a new education class right now and see that if we enter a new instance of education class, is it going to display on the page again, right? I haven't wired this button. Remember, this button is the one that I'm going to give you a little bit of homework and a challenge for you to figure out how to wire this button to delete an instance of the education class. It shouldn't be complicated from everything you've learned. And if you get stuck, just go in Google and look at Stack Overflow, whatever. Try and figure out on the internet, read the documentation. How would you wire this? And remember, you can you can post to a different route. Okay, so you can post to a different route using the URL of that you're going to be posting to. Nonetheless, let's try and add another one. So this was University of Scholar Online. Let us try and say university. All right, resume updated successfully. And if you go to the bottom over there, you will see we just had that University of Scholar Online, and then after that you have the University of South Africa. So every time you add a new qualification, it's going to be displayed over here. The user who's using this page on the front end doesn't see that I'm using two different classes. Using classes and using sort of the data sets and the data structures that you use to design your web application is what you know as a designer in the back end. The user only knows the user experience. Okay, so the user only sort of goes to their profile page, All right. And when they reach their profile page, they go and they view the resume. All right. And when they view their resume, this is what they see: the picture, and they see the details they've entered. Okay. They see the universities. And then at the bottom here, they're going to see, you're going to enter the experience as well. And there's going to be a button perhaps that says, please enter your work experience. And then it's going to be a pop-up similar to this one. And as they enter, this information gets populated. All right. And then probably what you want to do now here as well is be able to allow the user to edit this information. All right. And perhaps you're going to have a button at the top there that's going to say, edit this. All right. And then perhaps when you click on it, perhaps it's going to be a pop-up that they can edit the information as well, or maybe it takes them to a different page. That's going to be up to you how you do it. All right. But I think I'm going to end here because I've shown you enough to you to be able to now figure out how to do the rest. Okay, so your homework as well, on top of wiring the delete button, what you can also do, and this is for Wednesday homework, is to figure out what I've done over here with the universities and the education. I've already created for you the experience class, and I've already created for you the experience form over here. All right, so I've created you the experience class, which is this one. All right, and then I've created for you the experience form, which is over here. We discussed it a little bit, the experience form. So this is all the fields that are going to go into the experience form. All right. So what you need to do is just do the exact same thing. This should be simple. Just go and wire yourself a modal and a button over there that will be able to, when you click that button, it pops up a form that users can click to enter the experience, the same way we've done with the education. And then you'll be done with this page. All right, so next week when we continue, we are going to move away from the profile completely, because I think the profile is done now. We can enter the profile, users can enter their profile picture. We haven't done the edit, but that's something that you should be able to do. Now that we've done all of this, you should be able to perhaps figure out, maybe we'll click a button and it takes us to a different page, and we can do an edit page, and then we can edit all of this. All right. But what I think I'd rather do when it comes to these classes over here to simplify things, instead of allowing people to edit all of these, it should just be simple that if they've made a mistake and this was the wrong qualification, they can just delete it and put a new one, because it's only 5 or 6 lines of experience. All right, so this should be simple to just be able to delete this, all right, and enter a new one if there's a mistake, instead of having another option again to edit it. But it's up to you how you want to do it. You can also have another button over there that allows you to edit this, and you can do it within a modal as well, and a modal pops up and then they can edit that. Otherwise, you can just, for example, just let them delete it and add a new one. All right, for small things like that, that's okay. All right, and then next week when we come back, we are definitely going to move away from the profile system. I think we've done everything there. We've done the login, we've done the registration, we've even done the update your password. I've shown you how to do system emails, coming directly from the from the application and sending people emails. We have completed all the sections that go into the profile of the resume, and now we need to be able to log out. And next week we're gonna now start to entering data into our jobs. All right, we're gonna start wiring all of these sections and make sure that these are going to be real jobs. I showed you how to do this quickly in lecture 2 or 3, I can't remember, but now we're going to actually get real job data, okay, from the internet, and enter it into our job portal website so that our job portal is complete. All right, so see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.